leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang. From treats to holidays to fun times with the family, a totally tax-free £50,000 in cash could make you feel alive in 2025. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Teenage girls are out drinking their male peers in the UK at a greater rate than any other European country. Yes, more than a third of 15-year-old girls in the UK report getting repeatedly drunk, compared to less than a quarter of boys the same age. I suppose what I'd say to this is, boys, what are you doing? Pull yourself together. Well, joining me now is the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, and the former Labour advisor, Matthew Larzer. Charlotte, you're going to have to speak up on behalf of girls the country over here. 15-year-old girls boozing much more than their male counterparts.
I think it's to do with the pain threshold, so we can handle hangovers better.
Do you get hangovers when you're 15 years old?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I was drinking hooch and smelling...
Absolutely. Whatever happened to hooch?
Yeah. And I just think we can tolerate it better. Right. And I don't know, I grew up in that kind of wild child 90s drinking era. I'm showing my age a bit. And, God, we drank a lot as teenage girls. I mean, it's actually shocking now in retrospect.
Well, I also think in terms of boys versus girls, I wonder if we've got a bit of a thing about... I mean, the old cliché that girls develop quicker, they can become social quicker. They can certainly get into the pub more easily because they look older. Yeah. You know, because of makeup, etc. I wonder if the boys are all just, you know, in their rooms playing on their devices, as it were. You know, as people increasingly dominated by screens, whether in fact there's an issue about socialisation, about whether in fact, you know, the lads are not out there socialising.
They have little sips of wine in France from the age of like 12 and they're absolutely fine about it. Yeah. Whereas we all know what happens to British girls, because I was one of them. You turn, however, old enough to get a bottle of Smirnoff Ice, and boy, do you go for it, and until you're vomiting, basically.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
we have seen millions of people enter the UK in recent years, and some of them have backward, frankly, medieval attitudes to women.
Tories call to limit migration from countries with medieval attitudes. Not the best look for you to be relentlessly shouting over a woman on national television who's trying to make some point about whether or not introducing an Islamophobia definition could be quite dangerous for silencing British society. Don't we already have cultures in Britain who hate women? Plus...
Alexis J report with a set of very solid recommendations.
Are people jumping on the far-right bandwagon if they want a national independent inquiry?
I think those people need to explain why we need another review and inquiry.
Does the left have a problem calling out Pakistani rape gangs because it would shatter their multicultural ideology? And...
نقوم في بلدية ويستمنستر حالياً بتغيير طريقة عمل الإسكان الاجتماعي. نهدف إلى جعل طريقة العمل أكثر شفافية ومساعدة الأشخاص الأكثر احتياجاً.
£27 million of taxpayers' money is spent on interpreters for benefits claimants. We are not accepting the world's best and brightest, are we? Also,
I invite you all to join this government of service.
Well, Labour's anti-corruption minister is accused of having links to, you guessed it, alleged massive corruption. What's the latest? And... Fears now that another deadly virus has leaked out of China. Hospitals and morgues are overflowing, but what is it? And a 14-year-old boy has been stabbed to death on a bus in London. Is this Siddiq Khan's legacy?
Look at that knife, bro. Man's got a shank on him, bro. Big thing. Look at that shank. Look at that.
Our streets are totally out of control. Plus,
to talk about winter pressures in the NHS, and now winter is a 12-month period.
There's no end to the constant waiting.
Because ambulances should not be sat outside hospitals when people are dying.
It's another kick in the teeth for pensioners. Labour refuses to rule out stopping free prescriptions, but...
Oi, you! Shut your mouth and look at my wad! Loads of money!
Civil servants on more than 100 grand a year have received £14,000 in bonuses for helping to bring in cuts to the winter fuel payments. On my panel tonight is broadcaster and columnist Esther Krakow, commentator Alex Armstrong and journalist Jonathan Liss. Oh, and... yeah, huge earthquake in Nepal, sadly leaving at least 95 people dead. Meanwhile, here in Britain, well, trains are cancelled because unions tell their drivers not to walk through a bit of snow. Get ready, Britain, here we go. Guns, knives and rapes. Is anywhere safe anymore? Next.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories. A 14-year-old boy has been stabbed to death on a bus in Woolwich in south-east London. The Metropolitan Police says an investigation has now been launched. The incident occurred on a Route 472 bus on Woolwich Church Road. A police statement says paramedics treated him, but the boy died shortly after paramedics arrived onto the scene. Superintendent Louise Sargent said the alarm was initially raised by a local police officer out on patrol. No arrests have yet been made, but they're appealing for witnesses to come forward. In other news, Jess Phillips says she has more important things to be thinking about than Elon Musk after he accused her of being a rape genocide apologist. The safeguarding minister has hit back at the billionaire's criticism of her for the first time.
Being in the spotlight like this and the intimation of what Elon Musk is, the disinformation, as I believe the Prime Minister referred to it as, has put out about me, it's endangering.
It's endangering you? Mm. I just want to be absolutely clear. Are you saying that as a result of some of Musk's tweets, that the threat to you has gone up and things are in place to protect your safety?
Yes.
Musk made the comments after Ms Phillips denied a request for the Home Office to lead a public inquiry into the horrific abuse in Oldham, saying it should be done at a local level. The town in Greater Manchester was one of a number of areas where girls as young as 11 were groomed and raped over a decade ago in a national scandal that was exposed in 2013. Professor Alexis Jay, who chaired the independent inquiry, said today that people should just get on with implementing the recommendations made in previous inquiries. The comments come as the Prime Minister dismissed calls for a national inquiry yesterday, accusing the Conservatives of jumping on a bandwagon. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick today called once again for that national inquiry. A Home Office spokesman issued the following statement: "We are working at pace across government to drive forward real action to implement the recommendations of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse." And Meta has announced it's scrapping its third-party fact-checking service in the US after 9 years and replacing it with a community note system similar to the one used by X, where commenting on the accuracy of posts is left to users. In a video posted alongside a blog post, Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg said third-party moderators were too politically biased and it was time to get back to our roots around free expression. The move comes as Zuckerberg and other tech executives seek to improve relations with US President-elect Donald Trump before he takes office later this month. Donald Trump has criticised Meta for its fact-checking policy, calling it censorship of right-wing voices. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, it's back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Well, it's just gone at 9 p.m. and many of you will have probably just put your children to bed. You never think that maybe this is the last time you'll ever do that. A manhunt is underway for the killer of a 14-year-old schoolboy stabbed to death in broad daylight on a London bus. Earlier today, we got reports of an attack, and then it emerged that yet another child had fallen victim to Britain's knife crime epidemic.
Paramedics treated a 14-year-old boy at the scene who'd received stab wounds. But really sadly, he died shortly after medics arrived. The community can expect to see an enhanced police presence around the scene and the surrounding area.
Last year, a schoolgirl was stabbed to death at a bus stop in Croydon. She was 15, with a whole life ahead of her. Yesterday, we played you this clip of this alleged incident. Police say that they've now made arrests after that alleged machete fight in London. You get on a train in Britain nowadays, and you might just see this. You go out to celebrate New Year's Eve, and you might find yourself in the middle of a stabbing spree. How many times do you go out and see this? There you go. People just getting their phones snatched by moped gangs. 52,000 phones were stolen in London alone in 2023. 52,000. You work in a shop, you're trying to run a business, then in come the machete men. There you go. You find yourself in a war zone. You're wondering whether you'll go home to see your wife and kids again that evening. Do you fight back? I mean, that's the big question. That chap did there bravely, but sometimes it's just not worth it, is it? And we've got a mayor of London who said he'd do everything in his power to cut back, stop and search. Well, Sir Siddiq, here's your stop and search.
Quick as possible, all right? We're literally just search your pockets, search you. You've got a nice warm coat as well.
Yeah, they found a sword on him. And this isn't an isolated incident. It's every single day.
Look at that knife, bro. Man's got a shank on him, bro. Big thing. Look at that shank. Look at that.
It must be terrifying to be a parent in Britain right now. You raise your child correctly, you bring them up right, but every time they set foot outside, you worry about whether you'll be the one getting a knock on a door from the police that evening. But it's more than that. We have one rape reported every hour in London, and that's before we even mention the epidemic of Pakistani rape gangs that's gripped the news recently. It's not just London. It's not just London. This is right across the UK. But what are the consequences for those in power? Nothing. Siddiq Khan has just been knighted. For what? Services for turning London into a third world hellhole? And it's not just violent crime, is it? A total of 470,000 shoplifting offences were logged by police forces in England and Wales in the year to June 2024. People don't care anymore. We've got tens of thousands of people on a terror watch list. 43 terror plots were foiled since March 2017. I'm sick of it. Children being stabbed to death on buses, women being raped every hour in our capital city, armed police at Christmas markets. You go into Tesco, people filling their pockets up, legging it. I mean, it's non-stop, isn't it? And meanwhile, we have police investigating non-crime hate incidents and doing a Macarena at a gay pride event. We shouldn't have to live like this. Let's get our thoughts on my panel this evening. We do have broadcaster and columnist Esther Krakow. We also have a political commentator and GBNews presenter as well, Alex Armstrong, and journalist Jonathan Liss. Esther, it's just lawless. Look, you know, today, again, a 14-year-old boy stabbed to death on a London bus.
Yeah.
It's never ending.
Well, there's some people that would tell you it's because there are not enough youth centres and activity centres in these neighbourhoods to keep these young people busy so they don't do a bit of stabbing in their spare time. Look, in as much as I do think a lot of criticism levelled at Siddiq Khan is very valid and obvious, like stop and search, a very obvious Sort of 1 in 5 stop and searches lead to a police action. That's a very high hit rate considering how much crime the police actually does solve, which is very little in the grand scheme of things. I think we need to start getting more fundamental about it, and I think this is where society gets uncomfortable. What kind of homes are producing the kinds of, I'm sorry, scum that think it's acceptable to leave their houses with machetes, with these ghost knives, with these weapons to stab other people? What kind of homes are producing these just completely mannerless people with no moral compass walking into Tesco, nicking everything because they feel like they don't have to pay for stuff, because they feel so aggrieved by the world that they can just walk out with free stuff? What kind of homes are producing these delinquents that have no respect for society or for anyone else? And we know the kinds of homes there, and we know why we have the proliferation of these kinds of homes.
Well,
we have no social ties. Most people don't know their neighbours 3 doors down. Most people don't feel a sense of shame, because if you try to shame people's behaviour, that's apparently a terrible thing. You make people feel bad, and we shouldn't be doing that. And also, we know the kinds of homes that produce these young people. Our prisons aren't full of sort of Chelsea boys sniffing cocaine on weekends. We know the kinds of people that are in prison. They're basically functionally illiterate men coming, the product of 90% of the time single-parent homes, single mother-led homes predominantly. We need to start talking about what kind of people are producing these members of society.
Okay. Well, Alex, build that. I mean, we now have a society where people just do not feel safe leaving their front door. Everyone knows someone who's been a victim of this kind of stuff. Is it the parents? Whose fault is it?
Well, it's society as a culture as well. Obviously, the parents are a huge part of this, but I was brought up with a single mother, and I'm not going around knifing people. So we have to also look at the culture of the area, and I think Esther's right. There is a glorification of knives. There's a glorification of guns in popular culture now. And we've got to look at those as part of the root cause. It's getting out of hand. You're more likely to get stabbed than win the lottery. That is a fact in this country, and that is a disgraceful fact, another stain in our nation. We've also got politicians like Siddiq Khan who are putting race above safety. And that is another issue that people are afraid to talk about. He's the Police and Crime Commissioner. He's let London down time and time again, and yet we're still knighting the man, as you said in your monologue.
What do you think, Jonathan? Do you think the allegation that Siddiq Khan has put race above public safety, would you agree with that?
No, I think that there are a lot of different problems that you've identified here, and obviously these are really serious problems, and I think that we can kind of conflate them in a very alarmist way and kind of conjure the idea that London is a kind of dystopian hellhole.
It's not just London, by the way. The West Midlands is awful. Okay. It's usually Liverpool, Manchester, everywhere. But
Patrick, look, I mean, you shouldn't say this, I suppose, but I've lived in London my entire life. I've never been the victim of crime. I've never seen a violent crime. So it is possible to go around London feeling, hey, and I still feel safe, by and large, walking the city. Which is not to say that London is always a safe place. We know it isn't. And we know that terrible things...
It has to do with being a man.
Well, I mean, I think the majority of victims, I think, are in fact men.
No, but I think
perpetrators and victims are men.
I haven't been a victim of any crime, but I also don't take the tube past 8 p.m. because I had a bunch of teenage boys spitting at me and throwing.
Which is obviously this is.
You are acutely aware of your vulnerability in a world that's becoming less and less safe when you're a woman, and that's not to say that your opinion is invalid, but I'm just saying there's that added layer. This is why when we say the ULEZ is basically a tax on women, for example, a nurse, an NHS nurse coming home at night who can't drive a car into London, having to take the tube, you're even more acutely aware of how vulnerable you are. And then you add the layer of the fact that knife crime has gone crazy. Siddiq Khan has decided to replace what sounds good with what actually works, which is why he's not, engaging in
I'm just sick of it. Every day, we started seeing clips coming through of that stabbing in Woolwich, and we started to hear reports that maybe there was a boy involved. Then it turns out that there is a boy involved. And I've lost count of the amount of times I've sat in this newsroom and the victims of these crimes have been teenagers, a schoolgirl in school uniform at a bus stop. What on earth is going on here?
Well, Patrick, teenagers are twice as likely to be the victims of knife crime today than they were 10 years ago. So something has changed. Something has shifted. And I think Esther was starting to hit the nail on the head there. There is a culture problem. There is a societal problem. Those young boys have no future.
Deterrence.
There's no deterrent, you're right.
you have to wait 18 months to get sentenced, and then if you go to prison, you're probably going to serve about 40% of your prison. This is assuming they find space for you in the prisons. And what I don't understand, particularly on the stop and search point, is you have police commissioners, retired police officers, detectives, all saying, bring it back, it is effective. You have someone like Siddiq Khan, who's never even, I'm sorry, policed a Wetherspoons on a Friday night, saying, oh, no, but it makes people feel hurt. But someone like my brother, who's 5 times more likely to be stabbed than anyone sitting here, has to deal with that danger because Siddiq Khan is not interested in what makes him feel safe. He looks black families in the eye in London, the people that are most likely to be victims of these crimes, and says, oh, but I'm sorry, it makes the people who are carrying these knives feel hurt. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, and he's doing that on the basis of race, which is fundamentally wrong. He's saying, I'm not going to stop and search people because they're black, rather than saying, actually, this crime is committed against black people by black people disproportionately.
We reward... So, you know, OK, so Siddiq Khan is getting a lot of the focus here. Why? Because London is an outlier when it comes to this stuff. I'll emphasise again, there'll be people watching this right now in Manchester, in the North East, etc., who've seen knife crime go up, who see all of this stuff happen, and they feel it there as well. They feel it very deeply. But it just seems to me, Jonathan, like politicians aren't held to account. I mean, Siddiq Khan getting a knighthood must be a slap in the face to all of those victims, the families of those victims. Oh, you see people now, they must be... I'm not a parent. You must be terrified to see... You dress your child for school or whatever you do, you know, you put the school uniform on, they go on the school bus. You shouldn't have to wonder whether or not they're going to come home that evening.
Well, of course that's true. Look, all I would say is that a lot of these figures are in fact static. The number of homicides, for example, in London has remained pretty much exactly the same, around sort of 110 to 130 a year. It's obviously too many. I mean, that actually sounds quite low when I say it out loud, but that's just what I read.
Knife crime is up 80% in 10 years.
Of course, there are different. Of course, I didn't. I just point out the one figure, the one thing that was. Of course, there are different crimes that become sort of, you know, that go up in sort of not popularity, but in frequency over time. And we have to have a coordinated knife strategy. Absolutely. Is this can Siddiq Khan do more? Absolutely. Is this all on him? Absolutely not. I think that we all need to take accountability for things that are going wrong in society.
How do we shame homes that are producing these delinquents? You can't anymore because, and this is another thing. And look, when we even talk about parenting and parenting strategy, there's this subset on the internet that baffles me. They're like, oh, but they're trying their best. I need this to be very clear. Parents are not judged on how hard they're trying. They're judged on the products of their homes.
Quite right.
You're judged on what you produce. You're judged on the outcome. You're judged on what member of society you put out into the world. And I'm sorry if it feels like I'm hurting the feelings of parents that are just trying hard, or it's not all single mothers. So I'm not saying that. But listen, the reality is, what leaves your house is what you're judged on, not how hard you're trying. I'm sorry.
You know, I think there's all too often, I mean, I've reported on things over the years of 13-year-olds getting caught with machetes at 11 o'clock at night. And you think,
why is your child out of the house?
Where did his parents think he was?
Yeah.
Why did they not know where he was?
But yeah, there are so many reasons for this as well. I mean, I know that it's kind of an old-fashioned discussion now, but people have been having this discussion for many, many years about the roles of video games, for example. You know, people were talking about this in the 80s, about sort of video nasties. This conversation is actually not new, and about how much, you know, film, violent film, for example, influences young men, and obviously young men who don't necessarily have a role, don't know what their role in life is, they go to gangs. These are old problems, but we do need new solutions, I agree.
A lot of the data on that is very weak. The correlation to violent video games, for example, and violence amongst young people is very weak. It's the parenting styles that have changed. It's the generation of parents that are now raising these kids that are carrying knives that have changed. Because when they had stricter parents, post-war parents, they were upset that they were being strict with them because they were like, we didn't like being disciplined because it made us feel hurt. So you're producing these delinquents.
If the divorce rate has got something to do with this.
Of course it has.
I don't...
40% of kids are growing up in single-parent...
Well, Alex and I are both from single-parent households, and we're not committing crimes.
My mother was tough with me. And there's also schools. Their teachers have no authority anymore, do they?
All right. Look, lively start. Thank you very, very much. You know, it's difficult topics to talk about. I saw that story earlier today, and I was like, I'm going to have to lead on this because it's just yet another child killed in broad daylight on the streets. But, yeah, there is never a good time to do it, and especially tonight. But anyway, it is time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway. And it's your chance to win 50 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how you can win.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck, everybody. Still to come, I'm going to be joined by the anti-woke US fund manager who's plotting a crusade against ridiculous corporate diversity policies here in the UK. But first...
Politicians who sat in government for many years, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Well, I think that tells you all you need to know about this government's attitude towards Pakistani rape gangs. They're quicker to smear all those with legitimate concerns than to actually address the issue. And Jess Phillips has been speaking tonight. She's moaning. She's saying her life has been turned upside down. She hasn't spoken to any of the grooming gang victims. It's time for the head-to-head next with Novara Media's Aaron Bastani and the founder of the Oxford Institute for British Islam, Dr. Taj Haji. Stay tuned.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Figures released by the National Child Measurement Programme in 2024 found that almost 1 in 10 children was obese in the first year of school. Children living in deprived areas are twice as likely to be overweight as those in more affluent parts. Organisations like the Prepped Foundation are educating youngsters about healthy eating by giving them the skills to create balanced meals. TV chef James Golding has joined the foundation as the head of food education, and he joins me now to talk about the work. James, lovely to see you here.
Good to see you too. So Prepped used to be Table Talk Foundation, and it's now obviously Prep for Life, Prep for Knowledge. It's basically a charity to encourage kids to have a better understanding of food, but at the same time enjoy cooking and hopefully make better food choices in their life, as well as perhaps share the information we give them with their families.
Do you see them developing an understanding of the difference between healthy and unhealthy food?
Yes, I think that kids tend to sort of be taught a lot of this in school, but being able to actually ask questions to a chef and be able to cook with produce which they know is one, that is going to be tasty because they've tasted it, but two, open their eyes to food that they may not have tried before. I think that I think a lot of kids say they don't want to try stuff because they don't like the way it looks, but the way that we produce our sessions, we encourage the kids to try, and I think it really does open their eyes. It's very easy, I think, currently to be able to make easier choices, say fast food choices or that type of thing, and it's obviously giving people the ability to make the right choices, but also the skills to be able to do it. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed and something that really needs to be pushed, and that's what we're doing as a charity.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Coming up, the anti-woke US fund manager is plotting a crusade against corporate diversity. But first, is the left scared to admit that there is a problem with Pakistani rape gangs? It's time now for our head-to-head. So the Prime Minister has tonight been dealt a new blow, with the Tories preparing to challenge his decision to not hold an inquiry into grooming gangs with a vote in Parliament tomorrow. Starmer sparked complete outrage yesterday when he equated those calling for an inquiry to the so-called far right. But Labour Minister Stephen Kinnock was challenged over those comments on the BBC last night.
The Alexis J report with a set of very solid recommendations. So
are people jumping on the far-right bandwagon if they want a national independent inquiry?
I think those people need to explain why we need another review and inquiry.
We've spoken to a victim today.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious me. Oh, and tonight, the under-fire safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, who's been crying about what Elon Musk has said about her, also admitted that she hasn't actually met any of the Oldham victims yet.
I haven't spoken to them. I'm very much hoping to do that and arranging that.
Oh, but she really does care. She really does care. So tonight I'm asking, is the left scared to admit that there is a problem with Pakistani rape gangs? Let me know your thoughts. Go to gbnews.com/your say. Going head-to-head on this now are the journalist at Novara Media, Aaron Bastani, and the founder of the Oxford Institute for British Islam, Dr Taj Harji. Both of you, thank you very much. Dr Taj, I'll start with you. Do you think the left is scared to admit that there is a problem specifically with Pakistani rape gangs?
Yes, much of the left, but not all. They are motivated by a collective guilt complex about white racism, colonial anguish, and so forth. So they go out of their way to give Muslim fanatics, fascists, and I'll call them fundamentalists as well, a free pass to do as they wish. For example, the West says, the left says in general very little about Muslim misogyny, honor killings, social apartheid, cultural supremacy. Muslims do. The views about blasphemy, Sharia, religious intolerance, Muslim views about homosexuality, not endorsing free speech. The left is silent about the Taliban in Afghanistan, what they've done to the women there, and same with the Iranian mullahs. So the left is complicit in this, supporting reactionary, fundamentalist, ultra-conservative Muslims under the guise of multiculturalism and giving everyone a fair
Well, that's a good point to pass this one over to Aaron, because I do wonder, Aaron, whether or not the left, a lot of people on the left, can't actually admit that this is a massive issue, because their multicultural worldview would be shattered, wouldn't it?
Well, I have to say, I find that original contribution just made a moment ago rather bizarre, frankly. We're talking about historic and ongoing cases of mass child sexual exploitation, rape, abuse, horrific, in multiple places, Telford, Rotherham, Rochdale, Oldham, elsewhere in Greater Manchester, Oxford and beyond. And I don't think it helps to start that conversation by talking about Iran or Afghanistan. You talk about foreign policy on this show, I'm sure, but I don't think now is the time or place. And in terms of these issues, does the left have a problem? I think the whole of British civil society and the institutions with significant power in this country have a problem. We've had report after report showing failures with regards to the police, local authorities, councils and beyond. And I would say that today of all days, that question being posed, I think, has a political bent to it, Patrick. So let me put it like this. There was a report that was published in 2022 which had 20 recommendations to help survivors and victims of child sexual abuse, exploitation, rape. They included compensation, lifelong support, the creation of a national authority for child protection. And the Conservatives had 2 years to implement one of those 20 recommendations. They succeeded in producing 0
Yeah.
They implemented none of them.
But Aaron,
I find it... Please let me finish. I've got one more sentence to say. So in that context, Patrick,
hang on.
I find it rather strange
where this took place,
for you to be talking about the left. Why aren't you talking about the Conservative Party?
Yeah, fine, OK, and we do a lot. But, Aaron, I'll stick with you on this before we go back to Dr. Taj, because the vast majority of the places where this grooming took place were in Labour councils. And as numerous reports have found, you could argue, Aaron, that actually to begin with, this might have been a bit of a Labour cover-up.
So the 2013 J report, which is a really exceptional report, which comes out of Rotherham Local Council, that's commissioned at a local level, that can work. It was really, really powerful at the time. That was the original report which said at least 1,400 children, young women, were victims of sexual assault in Rotherham. That was where that number comes from. Very, very good report. And that report itself said that actually many people within the council, for instance, said they turned a blind eye, or they saw colleagues turn a blind eye, because of concerns about being considered racist. So this isn't a debate. We know that happened because a very powerful, strong, robust, well-researched report came to that conclusion 11 years ago. You know, we don't need to discuss that. It's a fact.
OK. Well, Dr. Taj, I'll bring you in on this. When it comes to where the Labour Party are at now, I look at the way that they maybe lost the quotes-unquote Muslim vote at the last election. I look at the way that they may be scrambling around to get that. Jess Phillips herself, for example, has a majority of something like 600 and odd now in her seat. Is it really in their interest to point out, do you think, that there have been problems, and I dare say continue to be problems, among specifically, in this regard, elements of the Pakistani community? Because is that not a voter base that they have courted for decades and need now, Dr. Taj?
Yeah, before I answer that, let me just go back. I gave a litany of issues that the left has sort of kowtowed to the Muslim vote. And I only mentioned Iran and Afghanistan at the end. Your guest didn't come back and rebut me on any of the other stuff. Okay, so that's very important. The left is in hock with radical, reactionary, ultra-conservative Muslims. And so when the Labour Party, for example, and all of these grooming gangs, we've had one in Oxford as well, mainly Pakistani, and they're Muslim. And I'm fed up of people calling them Asians. And we need to just call them Pakistani and also to add the word Muslim, because I have many Pakistani Christian friends and they don't do anything like this. Clearly, the Labour Party is concerned about the bloc vote. I mean, there are many constituencies. Jess Phillips is just one of many constituencies that she just scraped in, okay? So I think they're looking at the numbers and saying, listen, no, we can't do this. The point that I'm making, and I find very strange, that the left, they are really have strange bedfellows and have an unholy alliance with the most conservative, egregious segment of Muslim theology and Muslim clergy. I just cannot get my head around that.
Well, I'll let you come back to all of that, Aaron. Go on.
I mean, I'm personally a Catholic, so I try to be nice and reasonable to people of all faiths and none. What I would say is that we had yesterday from Yvette Cooper, who, by the way, I don't particularly like. I don't think she's got a particularly good record as a politician. She announced more yesterday as Home Secretary with regards to those 20 recommendations submitted in the 2022 report. She did more yesterday than the Conservatives did in 2 years in government. Now, I'm saying that about a politician I don't particularly like. I'm not a particularly big fan of this Labour government. I didn't vote Labour at the last election. So given that, in one night, Yvette Cooper did more than the Conservative Party did in 2 years, I find it really strange that this is the parameters for the debate. Does the left have a problem? Why aren't we asking, does the Conservative Party have a problem? Why didn't they do anything for 2 years with regards to the recommendations out of that 2022 report?
I think it's because they were too scared of being called Islamophobic in many cases. And I think we've seen that ourselves a lot. You know, it's very, very easy, Aaron, isn't it, for people to jump on a bandwagon and start accusing people of being an engine of Islamophobia, for example.
We need to address the issue here. The issue is, in general, forget about this grooming scandal. Why is it that the left in general is in hock and in bed with Muslim fundamentalists and fascists? I want to, they must answer that question.
All right. Well, look, I will say, as no doubt Aaron would as well, that it's not everyone on the left, but it's a point worth making.
Yeah, I said broadly. I didn't say everyone.
I get it. All right. We are going to have to go, I'm afraid. Thank you very much, both of you. That's the journalist at Novara Media, Aaron Bastani, and the founder of the Oxford Institute for British Islam, Dr. Taj Haji. Coming up, Labour's anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, has referred herself to the government's ethics watchdog over allegations that properties that she owns may have links to embezzled Bangladeshi funds. So you heard that right. She's Labour's anti-corruption Infrastructure Minister. Guido Fawkes news editor Max Young joins me soon. But first, I'm going to be joined live by the anti-woke US hedge fund manager who says he's on a mission to stamp out corporate diversity policies in the UK. Stay tuned.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A very good evening to you. Now the sun has set, the temperatures are tumbling. Hard frost tonight. That'll be around for much of tomorrow morning. An ice risk in some areas and some places seeing further snow. We need to watch this weather front just pushing up from the south. The weather system that's brought all the snow recently has cleared away, but we've still got the winds coming down from the north. Plenty of snow showers still to come across Northern Ireland and northern and the west coast of Scotland. The snow showers we've seen through the day across northwest England, North Wales should fade away. For many, it's a dry night, clear night. And there's that hard frost, minus double digits in some parts of the countryside. So yes, a very cold start to Wednesday. Still some snow showers over northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Still potentially very icy here first thing in the morning. Met Office yellow warning remains in place. Further covering of snow, further few centimetres through the night and into the morning. Same goes for Northern Ireland as well. Could also be a bit foggy here first thing, and we could have some fog patches too over northwest England, parts of the North Midlands. But most of England and Wales starting dry and very frosty, but down to the southwest, signs of a change. That weather front we saw earlier just nudging northwards. Some uncertainty about how much progress it makes, and that will be crucial for how much snow we see. At the moment, it looks like we'll see quite a bit of rain on the south coast, but there is the potential for some heavy snow for a time during Wednesday across southern counties of England. So there's a warning in place for that. As I say, just the potential at this stage, something we're keeping a close eye on. Further north for many places, dry and a bright day tomorrow, but it will be a cold one. The winds, though, generally lighter, particularly over northern Scotland, where they've been perishing today. Still a few wintry showers coming in here. That mixture of sleet and snow and rain across the south scoots away through the evening time. Again, a hard frost for Thursday morning, so again, potentially icy in places. But for many places, a fine, bright, cold winter's day.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, and in yet more evidence that big companies are scrambling to reverse the woke policies ahead of, well, not just Trump's inauguration, but I would argue the changing tide. Facebook boss Mark Zuckerberg did scrap the social media site's fact-checking program because he basically thought it had a massive left-wing bias. Now, this comes as US fund manager and ally of Donald Trump prepares to stamp out corporate diversity policies here in the UK with this new anti-woke investment fund. So he hopes to raise $1 billion and invest in hundreds of top companies, but he's going to snub around 30 of them that have explicit diversity, equity and inclusion policies. I think it's exciting stuff. And the man on this mission is US fund manager James Fishback. He joins me now. James, great to meet you. Thank you very, very much. So can you just explain to me what you're hoping to do here in the UK and why, please?
Well, Patrick, good evening. Great to see you. The problem, as Rupert Lowe eloquently put it,
that the woke diversity agenda is pure poison. It has nothing to do with running a profitable business and everything to do with pitting certain groups of people against others and treating workers without the dignity they deserve. And so our mission at Azoria is really simple. Identify companies that have put running woke games over actually running a profitable business. If they do that, they're out of the fund, and we're going to only invest in companies committed to meritocracy.
Yeah, and I mean, there are a lot of companies that have drunk the woke Kool-Aid, aren't there? And there are a lot of them on our high streets here in Britain. There are a lot of banks, actually, who've done it. I mean, Nigel Farage himself was debanked. So are you hoping to team up with Farage and Rupert Lowe?
We're looking to find as many allies as we can in this fight. And I'll tell you that Nigel speaks truth on this issue. Rupert Lowe speaks truth on this issue. Elon Musk and President Trump speak truth on this issue. So what we're already seeing, as you pointed out in your early segment about Meta and their new changes around free expression, it is the Trump effect in full swing. It's not just happening in the United States, it's happening around the world. We have to make meritocracy great again, not just in America, but for our friends across the pond. I'm a big fan of our special relationship, and I'll tell you, a new chapter awaits that special relationship with President Trump's inauguration in 2 weeks' time.
We've seen a huge amount of stuff over here. I mean, look, anecdotally, people point to adverts, whether it's on television or on the London Underground, where it does seem like every family's got to be what you might describe as a rainbow family. It does seem as though, I mean, on the side of vans at Costa Coffee, they had a post-op transsexual with the scars there, just advertising a latte. And you wonder, well, why is that? And so they must feel, James, as though there's money in that kind of advertising, but you think they're wrong?
They're absolutely wrong. There's no money in that kind of advertising. It alienates a large part of the population, doesn't really win anybody over. What's driving that advertising is the 1 to 2 DEI employees who are forcing through their politics in a business that should only be focused on delivering a profitable cup of coffee for the consumer. And so the answer is really clear. Businesses who put political agendas, DEI quota agendas, above and beyond actually running a business, they will underperform. And so what we're doing at Azoria is we're excluding those companies from popular indexes like the S&P 500, and that in turn delivers outperformance for investors, we hope.
I mean, the Jaguar advert is the most recent example, where they went from having cars that were not known for reliability, but did invoke a certain kind of spirit and feeling, and they decided to instead market that to, as far as I could tell, trans aliens. And that was weird, I felt, and I'd be amazed to see how well they do going forward or otherwise. But in practical terms, James, when you bring your, by the sounds of it, whopping great big checkbook to the United Kingdom, firstly, can I have a tenner? But secondly, what is that going to look like in practical terms? All right, so you know, are you talking about smaller companies? Are you talking about, how's it going to work, mate?
The way it works is pretty simple. We take a list of companies that are in popular stock market indexes, and we look at those companies that have explicit racial and gender hiring quotas, which are not only anti-meritocratic, but at the same time, they sabotage the company from a financial performance perspective. When those companies are identified, we give them an option. Do you want to fix your ways and recommit to meritocracy, or do you want to double down on woke and stupid and continue hurting your shareholders? Either way, our investors will win. If they recommit to meritocracy, Patrick, they're in the fund and they're going to outperform. If they continue to play woke games and be infected by this mind virus, then we will have nothing to do with them, and we'll protect our investors who are pensioners, our nurses, whomever they are, from the NHS to taxi drivers in London. We will protect them and their hard-earned money.
Hey, I think there's a lot of people out there now who are going to be listening to that with a certain degree of glee, James. So thank you very much, and good luck with everything. I hope we can stay in touch. There's James Fishback there, who is a US fund manager. It's interesting stuff. It's interesting stuff with music to a lot of people's ears. OK, look, coming up at 10 p.m.
We have seen millions of people enter the UK in recent years, and some of them have backward, frankly, medieval attitudes to women.
Yeah, and he's right about that. Why is that controversial? Is the Pakistani grooming gang scandal an example of what happens when you throw your borders open to what he might call alien, medieval and fundamentally women-hating cultures? Going to tackle that at 10. But first, Labour's anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, has referred herself to the government's ethics watchdog over allegations that property she owns and lives in may have been gifted to her using embezzled Bangladeshi funds. Yep, you heard that right. That is Labour's anti-corruption minister. Guido Fawkes' news editor Max Young is live and he's next.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
If you're on the hunt for some winter sun, I'm afraid it's often going to be cloudy, also with some rain. Largely dry across central areas, but it is going to be windy at times. Some cloud and rain moving into parts of Madeira and Lisbon, though largely dry across Tenerife and largely dry across central areas of the Mediterranean too. But as we move further east, more cloud for parts of Italy and also Greece, and this could be thick enough to produce some rain at times. More in the way of sunshine towards the end of the week, and temperatures widely in the mid to high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
With the dawn of the new year come new opportunities for the stage. Stefan Kyriazis joins us now to share how he started 2025.
We've got Sigourney Weaver, Hollywood star, coming in as Prospero in The Tempest. It's an experience. Sigourney Weaver has got this kind of patrician presence. She's always on stage, sat watching or stalking the area, but she doesn't quite get the Shakespearean rhythms for me. We've got more trauma for you, and we've got a little clip to run first. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I don't know how people's Christmases were with their families, but this is a very unhappy family, so you can feel good about your family, whatever they're like. This is Tennessee Williams' deeply unhappy story of a family in sort of plantation south. The patriarch, Big Daddy, is dying, although he doesn't know it yet. Everyone is manoeuvring around him. Everyone is pretty unpleasant, pretty unhappy. It's all based on nobody really telling the truth. Everyone's suppressing things.
Got one more thing for us?
We do, and suddenly sunshine, life, joy. It's Nutcracker, but in Havana. Which is from Carlos Acosta. It's a very Cuban feel. And again, we've got a lovely little clip to cheer us all up.
Good.
That. There was no Christmas when he was growing up. Castro had banned it all. So we've got this setting in Cuba, and instead of magicians, you've got the uncle coming back from Miami, loads of presents. It's just full of joy, and you've got a reworked music. I love the Tchaikovsky score to death, but this one has been added, so you've got kind of Caribbean flutes and lutes and guitars. Huge exuberance, colourful, bright.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. And the scandal over Labour MP Tulip Siddiq's links to an allegedly corrupt Bangladeshi regime has tonight deepened, with rumours swirling that her properties could be investigated by Britain's top crime agency as part of an international hunt for billions of pounds allegedly stolen by her aunt, Sheikh Hasina, who was ousted as Bangladeshi leader in August. Yesterday, Siddiq referred herself to the government's watchdog on ministerial standards over her use of these properties, but Sir Keir Starmer was quick to leap to her defence. He said that she's acted properly, entirely properly, by referring herself for scrutiny. I'm joined now by the news editor and Guido Fawkes, Max Young. Max, thank you very much. Can you just explain to our viewers and our listeners, please, what's going on here with Labour's anti-corruption minister?
Evening, Patrick, and Happy New Year. Yeah, this is quite a complex situation. So Tulip Siddiq is the Labour City Minister. She's the niece of Sheikh Hasina, who's the ousted dictator of Bangladesh, who was in power over 2 periods for about 20 years. She's currently in hiding in India. Now, in December, we reported that Tulip was one of the people connected to said aunt, who was under investigation by the new Bangladeshi government's Anti-Corruption Commission into, among other things, claims that she benefited, along with the rest of her family, from a grafty, shall we say, nuclear deal with Russia, which was agreed with Vladimir Putin in 2013. And indeed, at the signing of that agreement, Tulip Siddiq was present and was photographed. Now, that investigation is ongoing. And today, the Bangladeshi Finance Intelligence Unit, which is responsible for looking into illicit transactions and money laundering, has requested to see the bank accounts of the Labour City Minister. So it's all a bit murky at the moment, and the government has kept her in post. Interestingly, she's Economic Secretary to the Treasury, which means that in her brief, she is also responsible for dealing with money laundering and illicit finance. So it slightly beggars belief, and it's a very complex situation. Concurrently, it has to be said, the UK media has been reporting on links between Hasina, her party, the Awami League, and properties that are lived in or have been lived in or owned by Tulip Siddiq, of which there are, from what it seems, at least 5. So this is a deepening and complex situation from which the city minister looks to be on quite shaky ground, to be honest with you.
Well, look, hey, it's not a good look, and very shortly we're going to be reading an incredibly strong rebuttal on this from numerous different parties, including Tulip Siddiq's aunt. However, in the meantime, not a great look for the Labour Party, is it? Where, it's not been great headlines for them pretty consistently for a while now, to have someone who's, an anti-corruption minister who's embroiled in this kind of nonsense.
It's not a great look, no. I think it reflects badly on the UK, and I think it damages our reputation to have this stuff ongoing, and for it to unravel and deepen in such a way without any meaningful action from the government here in the UK. So Siddiq has referred herself to Laurie Magnus, who's the independent advisor on ministerial standards, but he's not going to look into corruption. He's going to look into whether she's breached the ministerial code, which is a whole nother issue, right? So I think it does raise questions as to when, if at all, the UK may launch its own investigation into the potentially network of embezzled funds in the UK. Now, this may not be linked to Tulip Siddiq at all. She, of course, denies all wrongdoing. But I think more needs to be uncovered here, and there are serious questions that have to be asked about what's going on.
Exactly. Serious questions have to be asked about what's going on. And also, you can't help but notice the contrast between numerous different, as they were at the time, shadow Labour ministers calling for everyone to go if there was even a whiff of a slight investigation, versus what we have now, which is, of course, Tulip Siddiq remaining entirely in post. Can I just say a massive thank you to that? And sorry it was so short, but as you can imagine, I now have a couple of lengthy rights of replies to read out to my viewers and listeners. So, Max, thank you. Max Young there, the news editor at Guido Fawkes. In her letter to the Ministerial Standards Watchdog, Sir Laurie Magnus, Tulip Siddiq said, "In recent weeks, I have been subject to media reporting, much of it inaccurate, about my financial affairs and my family's links to the former government of Bangladesh. I am clear that I have done nothing wrong." Now, an advisor for Tulip Siddiq's aunt, Sheikh Hasina, has previously denied all allegations of corruption and money laundering as being completely bogus and a smear campaign. There we go. Coming up at 10 p.m.
We have seen millions of people enter the UK in recent years, and some of them have backward, frankly, medieval attitudes to women.
Well, I'm sorry, but why is there the controversy about this? Right, surely Robert Jenrick is right here. Is the Pakistani grooming gang scandal not an example of what happens when you throw your borders open to what he may refer to as being alien, medieval and fundamentally women-hating cultures? Are the fact that Britain is now the Sharia court capital of Western culture not actually a prime example of that? Are we not welcoming some more of these people, dare I say it, coming across the channel. We're also going to be talking about Labour's latest ability to kick pensioners in the teeth while making civil servants even richer. Stay tuned.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A very good evening to you. Now the sun has set, the temperatures are tumbling. Hard frost tonight. That'll be around for much of tomorrow morning. An ice risk in some areas and some places seeing further snow. We need to watch this weather front just pushing up from the south. The weather system that's brought all the snow recently has cleared away, but we've still got the winds coming down from the north. Plenty of snow showers still to come across Northern Ireland and northern and the west coast of Scotland. The snow showers we've seen through the day across northwest England, North Wales should fade away. For many, it's a dry night, clear night. And there's that hard frost, minus double digits in some parts of the countryside. So yes, a very cold start to Wednesday. Still some snow showers over northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Still potentially very icy here first thing in the morning. Met Office yellow warning remains in place. Further covering of snow, further few centimetres through the night and into the morning. Same goes for Northern Ireland as well. Could also be a bit foggy here first thing, and we could have some fog patches too over northwest England, parts of the North Midlands. But most of England and Wales starting dry and very frosty, but down to the southwest, signs of a change. That weather front we saw earlier just nudging northwards. Some uncertainty about how much progress it makes, and that will be crucial for how much snow we see. At the moment, it looks like we'll see quite a bit of rain on the south coast, but there is the potential for some heavy snow for a time during Wednesday across southern counties of England. So there's a warning in place for that. As I say, just the potential at this stage, something we're keeping a close eye on. Further north for many places, dry and a bright day tomorrow, but it will be a cold one. The winds, though, generally lighter, particularly over northern Scotland, where they've been perishing today. Still a few wintry showers coming in here. That mixture of sleet and snow and rain across the south scoots away through the evening time. Again, a hard frost for Thursday morning, so again, potentially icy in places. But for many places, a fine, bright, cold winter's day.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£50,000 in tax-free cash is like having over £4,000 each month to play with for a whole year. And it could be yours in the biggest Great British giveaway so far. That could be a holiday each month, your mortgage covered, or just the ability to send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
I haven't spoken to them. I'm very much hoping to do that.
Jess Phillips wants your sympathy, but she still hasn't spoken to the grooming gang victims. And
We have seen millions of people enter the UK in recent years, and some of them have backward, frankly, medieval attitudes to women.
So the Tories are now calling to limit migration from countries with medieval attitudes. Not the best look for you to be relentlessly shouting over a woman on national television who's trying to make some point about whether or not introducing an Islamophobia definition could be quite dangerous for silencing British societies. Yes, but don't we already have cultures in Britain who despise women? Plus,
Alexis J report with a set of very solid recommendations.
Are people jumping on the far-right bandwagon if they want a national independent inquiry?
I think those people need to explain why we need another review and inquiry.
does the left have a problem calling out Pakistani rape gangs because it would shatter their multicultural ideology? And fears are growing that another deadly virus has leaked out of China. Hospitals and morgues are overflowing, but what is it? Also, a 14-year-old boy has been stabbed to death on a bus in London. Will this be Siddiq Khan's legacy?
Look at that knife, bro. Man's got a shank on him, bro. Big thing. Look at that shank. Look at that.
Our streets are totally out of control. Plus,
We used to talk about winter pressures in the NHS, and now winter is a 12-month period.
There's no end to the constant waiting.
Because ambulances should not be sat outside hospitals when people are dying.
well, I hate to tell you, it's another kick in the teeth for pensioners because Labour is refusing to rule out scrapping free prescriptions, but...
Oi, you! Shut your mouth and look at my wad! Loads of money!
Those civil servants on more than £100,000 a year have received £14,000 in bonuses for helping to bring in cuts to the winter fuel payment. On my panel tonight is the broadcaster and columnist Esther Krakow. We've got commentator Alex Armstrong and journalist Jonathan Liss. Oh, and... huge earthquake in Nepal leaves at least 95 dead. Meanwhile, here in Britain, trains are cancelled because unions tell drivers not to walk through a little bit of snow. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Is multiculturalism turning Britain into a backward, medieval, woman-hating hellhole? Next.
Patrick, thank you very much. Professor Alexis J, who chaired the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, said today that people should just get on with implementing the recommendations made in previous inquiries. The comments come as the Prime Minister dismissed calls for a national inquiry yesterday, accusing the Conservatives of jumping on a bandwagon. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick today called once again for that national inquiry.
Long advocated whole life sentences for these grooming gang perpetrators.
In other news, a 14-year-old boy has been stabbed to death on a bus in Woolwich in south-east London. The Metropolitan Police says an investigation has now been launched. The incident occurred on a Route 472 bus on Woolwich Church Road. A police statement says paramedics treated him, but the boy died shortly after medics arrived on the scene. Superintendent Louise Sargent said the alarm was initially raised by a local police officer out on parole. No arrests have yet been made. Now, the Health Secretary says he feels ashamed at the experiences of some patients in the NHS, admitting that some patients are being taken to hospital to die because the right care is not available when they need it. His comments come after a number of NHS trusts in England have declared critical incidents. The number of people in England's hospitals with flu quadrupled in the last month, according to NHS data. The Royal Liverpool University Hospital declared a critical incident this afternoon due to exceptionally high demand on emergency care. It's understood the longest time one patient waited to be admitted to a ward at the hospital was 50 hours. Several other NHS trusts later declared critical incidents, with one saying it's seen high numbers of older patients with respiratory issues exacerbated by the cold weather. And Meta has announced it's scrapping its third-party fact-checking service in the US after 9 years and replacing it with a community note system similar to the one used by X, where commenting on the accuracy of posts is left to users. In a video posted alongside a blog post, Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg said third-party moderators were too politically biased and it was time to get back to our roots around free expression. The move comes as Zuckerberg and other tech executives seek to improve relations with US President-elect Donald Trump before he takes office later this month. Donald Trump has criticised Meta for its fact-checking policy, calling it censorship of right-wing voices. And those are the latest GB News headlines. More news from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Do we really want Britain to be turned into a medieval third world hellhole populated by people whose ideology treats women like dirt? Well, no, me neither. So why is this controversial?
Seen millions of people enter the UK in recent years, and some of them have backward, frankly, medieval attitudes to women. We're talking here about thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of vulnerable young girls being tortured and raped. I will not disguise or sanitize my language simply to ensure that some people are not offended.
Well, there were calls for him to be sacked today for saying that. You know what should be more controversial, in my view? That our safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, is crying about how tough Elon Musk is making her life, but she hasn't spoken to the Pakistani rape gang victims in Oldham yet.
I haven't spoken to them. I'm very much hoping to do that and arranging that.
You just pick the phone up, can you? Anyway, that's the scandal. No inquiry, not even a phone call. Labour don't actually care, do they?
The Alexis J report with a set of very solid recommendations. So
Are people jumping on the far-right bandwagon if they want a national independent inquiry?
I think those people need to explain why we need another review and inquiry.
We've spoken to a victim today who says she was sexually exploited as a teenager in Telford. Is she jumping on the far-right bandwagon?
I think that the J review was very clear that they will put institutions in place, child protection.
It's just sickening, isn't it? It's hardly a shock, though, that they're not standing up for women, given that they couldn't even tell us what a woman was.
Transphobic to say only women have a cervix. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick, and it's great to talk to you.
Good to have you on.
I just think that this issue has just become so divisive.
Is it transphobic, yes or no?
Look, is it transphobic? Look, I don't even know how to start answering.
And when Tory Shadow Home Office Minister Chris Phillips said that it wasn't far right to care about these rape gangs, Labour MPs heckled him.
A word on the Prime Minister's comments this morning. It is not far right to stand up for victims of mass rape. And smearing people.
Order!
I thought Starmer said that he would be a Prime Minister for working people.
A budget for working people from a government for working people.
Just not the tens or hundreds of thousands of working-class white girls who've been raped by predominantly Pakistani men, though. We know there's a medieval ideology in Britain. We've got 85 Sharia courts. We are the Western capital for Sharia courts. 2/3 of men arrested for alleged sex attacks in London are apparently foreign-born. What does that tell you about their attitudes towards women? And no doubt many of them will have come here legally. But what about some of that lot there? Now, I am, of course, not saying that everyone coming across the channel is a sex offender. Far from it. But are they not very often coming from countries where women are often treated like property, where they don't have to consent to sex, where child marriage is more common? I mean, yesterday we revealed the Foreign Crime League table. And get your heads around that one. Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, yeah, well, they're not. Are they not medieval third world countries, some of those ones, where women are treated a bit like rubbish?
A lot of the posts on social media have been racist. I think when you're saying that refugee and asylum-seeking men should be vetted to make sure that they're not paedophiles, I think that's racist.
Grief. I find that the people who say that diversity is our greatest strength and that we should throw our borders open to third world countries are often the same people who want to ignore Pakistani rape gangs, Sharia courts treating women like dirt, and foreign men relentlessly attacking women and girls. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. We are joined, of course, by broadcaster and columnist Esther Kraku. We also have political commentator and GB News presenter Alex Armstrong and journalist Jonathan Liss. Look, there appears to me to be a bit of a blind spot here, Esther, between people who say that, you know, diversity is our greatest strength, we need to throw our borders open. Now, what's wrong with Robert Jenrick there saying that some cultures do have a medieval approach to women's rights?
14 years being in the Tory government, that's probably what's... Yeah. Here's the thing. I have no time for anything anyone in the Tory party has to say about any of this. None whatsoever. I don't want to hear it. They've had 14 years to not do anything about it. Just because Elon Musk has decided to blow this whole story up again doesn't give them the moral authority to jump on. I suspect that was probably the bandwagon Elon Musk was talking about. If that's me being generous, then forgive me. But look, I hate to quote Trump here, but, you know, when he said they're not sending their best, they're sending rapists, they're sending all of that, there was a point there, as crudely as it was put. You're not seeing these problems, even if you go to, like, Pakistan, for example, you're not seeing these problems with sort of engineers or chemists or physicists, right? There's a certain echelon of society that have been educated and exposed to ideas that don't feel fancy a bit of rape or treating women like dirt. The human beings weren't just gifted with this progressive idea of how to treat people and equality and all of that. We had to evolve into it. We had to educate ourselves and all of that. When you are bringing over these men from these cultures that are, I'm sorry, like, if you look at the court files, most of these men that were convicted, I kid you not, were taxi drivers, people who worked in kebab shops and people that were part of the nighttime economy. Hardly the bankers and chemists and physicists that you would see. And there is something to that. I think the argument that you're importing these people that are like low-skilled, low-paid, lowly educated, and so it's a shock horror. They bring over their barbaric views of women. Well, that's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Well, I would argue it is. As you know, there were calls, weren't there, for he should be sacked over his use of language. Medieval cultures.
They're not offended by the rape of women, by the way. They're offended by the use of language.
Well, of course they're offended by... Esther, that's a cheap point. Of course they're offended by the rape of women. Everyone is offended by it. Everyone is offended by it.
But Esther's point is they seem to be more outraged around the commentary about someone being...
I think people...
using specific language, which is accurate.
No.
I mean, Robert...
What do you think...
Hang on, but let's just clarify. Child marriage is alien. Cousin marriage is alien. Sharia courts are alien. Women covering up. These are all alien things to our country. We cannot lie about that. They are not...
All those things have happened in this country. All those things have happened in this country.
Not into the 21st century. We have not decided that to be our culture.
But no one's saying that child marriage should be legal in this country.
British.
No one's saying that child marriage. No one's saying that.
Hang on, let me just finish, because Jenrick is right to say these things, and if we do not have an honest conversation, we will continue to perpetuate the same violence.
Alex, we're not having an honest conversation. We're having a conversation on the terms of people like Robert Jenrick and the people that he's sucking up to on the far right. And I'm sorry, it is. Keir Starmer is absolutely right when he says this. I'm not saying that people who are calling for a report are far right, but the Conservative politicians who had, as Esther said, 14 years to do something and did nothing. Was this listed in the Conservative Party election manifesto? No. Was it in the Reform Party manifesto? No. Did they talk about it at all? Absolutely not. Did they show any interest whatsoever? Did Suella Braverman do anything about it? Did they implement any? Did they implement any of the recommendations of the Electoral report? No, they didn't. They're only jumping on the bandwagon, which is being amplified by Tommy Robinson.
Labour are also jumping on the bandwagon here, because it was only Sunday at 1 p.m. that they finally endorsed the full implementation of the CSA report. Sunday, after pressure from journalists like Charlie Peters, who's done God's work exposing this. It was only thanks to Elon Musk and GB News that this Labour government decided to finally take action. So it's very rich for the Labour Party to say, oh, we're doing something, we're acting at pace. Jess Phillips has done nothing on this since she got into power.
Not fair.
No, since she got into power, she has ignored 2 letters from Oldham Council. She's denied them national support. And now the Labour government have only decided to implement these recommendations. They also didn't have it in their manifesto. We can slam the Tories, and I agree with you, but Labour are just...
Because the argument for the Labour Party, which I think is a legitimate one, is that we've had a very broad-ranging inquiry, which took years.
But that's the point. This is such a scandal. It should be specific. It should be unique to the issue. I mean, where else in the world would anyone tolerate this? It is so...
No one's tolerating. But it's not being tolerated.
It is tolerating it because we're calling for a specific inquiry into this particular issue. The one on child sex, grooming, and sexual assault is a broad one, and we're talking about this specific issue because this uniquely affected white working class British girls and was British Pakistani men were uniquely overrepresented. So it's a very specific issue.
So if you look at the demographic makeup, according to one report in 2015 that looked into the demographic makeup of child sexual exploitation gangs, it was 42% were white, 14% were Asian. And we don't, you know, there were gangs in Derby and Cornwall that were perpetrated by white men. We don't call them white rape gangs. We don't call them white grooming gangs. It's only a matter. Ethnicity is only important when it's Muslims doing it.
Why is this relevant? I'm sorry, do you know another reason for this national inquiry? We don't even know how many victims there are of this Pakistani rape gang. Okay, we don't even know how many victims there are. You know the range? Between tens of thousands to 1 million. That is the reason why. Don't play whataboutery and say...
It's not whataboutery at all. It's not whataboutery. It's not whataboutery. If you look at the figures where it's shown that the vast majority of offenders are in fact white, we're not having an inquiry. We're not talking about...
In general, we're talking about this specific scandal.
Even in this specific scandal, of course there are Pakistanis involved. But I think the problem to extract...
almost 90%. No. What do you mean, of course,
we're talking in terms of child sex exploitation in this country. Why are we only focusing on the one that's Pakistanis?
No, hang on. Let's get something straight here. Both Labour and the Tories utterly failed these victims. I hate this political football that's been happening between the two major parties in this country who have both abjectly failed to protect a single one of those victims. They are all as guilty as each other, and frankly, there should be a national inquiry so they can all be facing some form of justice. I think that's what the public are demanding.
What do we make of Jess Phillips doing the media rounds today and going out there saying, you know, Elon Musk has turned my life upside down? Now, I don't think any of us, we don't want to see anyone facing physical threats or anything like that. I would argue Jess Phillips is getting a lot of stick for actually not doing her job.
No.
I would absolutely agree with that, by the way, because I think Jess Phillips has been two-faced on this issue.
Can I just say, on this point, and people might hate me for defending Jess Phillips, she has a stronger record on defending women and children from violence, domestic assault, than most people in Parliament, hands down.
Than almost anyone else.
I, for one, for the life of me, cannot understand why she would not back this national inquiry. I find it... I genuinely
think we know why.
I think we know... I mean, this is someone who almost lost her seat if it wasn't for 700 votes. And we know that there are ethnic tensions in her sort of voting bloc that she doesn't want to upset. That's a fact. However, I think to go after Jess Phillips specifically is insincere and deeply unfair.
It's insincere, but
hold on. It's insincere and deeply unfair because the same people that are attacking her could have done something about this.
Yes, no,
and they haven't.
But let's look at it from outside the Tory perspective and say, OK, from someone who's made her entire career supposedly trying to safeguard women and making this a major issue, now when she finally has power, she ignores 2 letters from Oldham Council.
But the Tories also ignored... also rejected it.
I completely agree on the Tories, but I'm talking objectively about Jess Phillips' entire career.
Do you know the name of the Tory minister that rejected it? We don't know the name of the Tory ministers that have rejected calls.
Well, it would have been the previous Home Secretary.
The problem, inquiries anyway are just another way that governments use to kick the can down the road and to put things into the long grass. So the government needs to actually implement the recommendations of the J inquiry.
I want them implemented, but it's not going to go far enough. That is what people need. There are 50 towns. There are potentially 50 towns in this country that have been identified to have rape gangs of young children. That is a stain. It is a disgrace. And until there is justice for the victims, for the people that covered it up, for the people that are still not taking action today, this country is not going to rest, nor should it.
But the thing is, what does justice look like? Just to put this into context, over the last 72 hours, the people that have threatened Jess Phillips online, that have been tweeting, have been arrested, right? But over decades, people who have gang raped children as young as 11 are still walking the streets. So I think we know what justice looks like, but we just don't want to do it.
Just on that, again, there's an active case involved there, so we will say allegedly, but I take your point. Just on this, there's an individual roaming the streets, working as a delivery driver, food delivery driver in Rochdale, who was scheduled for deportation something like 11 years ago, and is also believed to still be living in the family home. And it is on that point that I do just wonder, and we haven't got time to go into this now, but no doubt we probably will at some point tomorrow in the coming days. You know, if you commit these crimes, what does it say about the community? If you commit these crimes and you get out of prison, you are seemingly, in many cases, just welcomed back into the family home. I find that insane.
Yeah, that is...
It's weird.
Yeah.
Well, what was the case with the family? There was a man who went to court and was convicted. I think it was over similar crimes, and the family was screaming at the judge, going, "Shame, shame, shame, shame on the judge. Shame on him." Okay. Shame on him.
Well, look, thank you very much. Again, obviously, another incredibly difficult topic to talk about there, but an important one nonetheless. I've got loads more coming your way, including some quite concerning stuff coming out of China. Not for the first time. It's not Groundhog Day. But before all of that, time now for the greatest and biggest Great British giveaway. 50 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how that money could be yours.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, good luck, everybody. Coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Oh, and should we be worried about this latest virus coming out of China? It has hospitals overwhelmed. Apparently, it might have made its way here already. But first, the government has failed to rule out scrapping free prescriptions for the over-60s. Oh, and they've also handed a massive bonus to the civil servants who were tasked with snatching away the winter fuel payments from millions of pensioners. Oh, and you are paying 27 million quid for interpreters for people who can't speak English but who are on benefits. So happy Christmas and New Year, everybody. Anyway, friend of the show and pensioner Sue Ashcombe-Hurd joins us soon.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Mr. Motivator, he joins us now. Mr. Motivator, a very happy new year to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. There you are, bright and early. So how are things? How can we all kick ourselves into shape?
By the end of January, most people have thrown their New Year's resolution out the window. I think what's important is that we make a change for life and we set ourselves small goals. And as we achieve those goals, then we reward ourselves. In other words, You want to run 10K, you don't immediately get up and go run 10K, do you? You run between 2 lampposts and walk between 20. If you're not into running, don't choose running. If you're into dancing, that's great. If you're into any kind of movement, that is the way to keep yourself active, healthy, and also maintain your independence.
So, Derek, is the point that you keep it manageable and small enough that it's achievable?
Why don't we just find 4 exercises that you do for 1 minute each exercise, and you do that 4 times a day? Achievable, isn't it? That's only 4 minutes of exercise. And I guarantee at the end of the day, you'd have done 12 minutes, which is like your daily dozen. So there's your goal. I wanted to do a daily dozen of exercise lasting a minute each, right? And the first thing you could be doing is getting up from your chair, right? The moment you stand up, you incorporate so many muscles in your legs, right, that you're going to feel good, yes? So,
right, go on then. Get up off your chair, Adam. Show me how it's done.
Easy, come on.
Easy, yeah. Look at that.
No hand. The next thing I want you to do is to reach up real high. And if you bring it down, up
I'll
and
do
down.
that one.
Yeah.
For a minute, palms facing.
Oh, for a minute?
You're not flying a minute. That's better.
There we go.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back, everybody. All of tomorrow's newspaper front pages coming shortly. But first, the government has sparked fury over top civil servants who've been involved in the decision to rip away pensioners' winter fuel payments, receiving annual bonuses of up to £14,000. A total of £11.9 million in your money, taxpayers' money, was paid to bonuses for the staff at the Department for Work and Pensions last year, a sum that would have reimbursed 60,000 pensioners who had their winter fuel payments ripped away by Rachel Reeves. Well, this comes as the government refused to rule out scrapping free prescriptions for over 60s in order to raise more money for the NHS. When asked yesterday. I'm joined now by a pensioner and a GB News viewer. You may remember Sue, lovely Sue, from when we were doing our fundraiser for Friends of the Elderly. Sue, great to see you. Thank you very, very much for coming on the show this evening. How do you feel when you hear that the winter fuel payment has gone, but there are people who were already on, in some cases, £100,000 a year, getting bonuses of now 14 grand for helping to enact that policy?
I think it's disgraceful. Getting anybody paid extra for for basically doing the job anyway. It's not something extra for them to do, is it? That's what they should be doing all the time. I mean, I don't mean taking stuff away from pensioners, but the work that they're doing, that's what they're paid for. So why are they paid an extra 14,000? I bet if Rachel Reeves was paying it herself, she wouldn't be paying them 14,000. It's only because us taxpayers are daft enough to pay it.
Well, this is it. I mean, they've made a decision, haven't they, Sue? They've made a decision that people like you can be cold in your own homes this winter, but those people who were already on a pretty good whack can crank the heating up, can't they?
Yeah, and Rachel Reeves, it's already been shown that Rachel Reeves is not going to get the money that she expected from this disgraceful act, because already the amount being claimed now from pension credits plus the winter fuel allowance that those people who've gone on pension credit will get are exceeding the amount that she was expecting to get from the Treasury. So it was a complete waste of effort, really. I mean, if you want to say...
Go on.
Sorry. No, if you want to save money, here's a couple of suggestions. Reduce the amount of expenses MPs can claim, half the amount of money that the peers can claim for just turning up to sit in the House of Lords for the day. Take 22 billion off that stupid Miliband bloke who's putting that money into carbon capture when not even the Greens want to do that. They say that it's a waste of money. So why are they throwing money away and yet penalising the pensioners?
Well, the other aspect to it is that pensioners who can no longer claim the winter fuel payment and may well now, specifically, now the temperature's dropped, let's be honest, especially up north. In the last few days, it started snowing there. They are now looking at that and seeing that we are also spending, Sue, £27 million of taxpayers' money on interpreters for foreign people who can't speak English, who are already on benefits. So if you come to England, can't speak a word of English, don't bother to learn the language, you can get on benefits. And we will pay for you to have an interpreter whilst you're on the phone to the DWP to try to get more benefits. Does it feel sometimes to you, Sue, like you might be at the back of the queue?
Definitely at the back of the queue. I don't see why the taxpayer in this country is actually paying for mobile phones for illegal immigrants or interpreters for anybody. I don't care whether they're illegal immigrants on benefits or immigrants, full stop. If you can't speak English and you need an interpreter, then pay for it yourself. That's what they do in France. I had a friend, my ex-partner's friend, went to live in France for a while for his company, and they couldn't get any help for the interpretation. They had to pay for it themselves. And the forms, how many forms do we have to print in all these different languages? If these people learn to speak English, we'd only have to print one. It'd save an absolute fortune.
It's a lot of common sense. It's a lot of common sense, Sue, that again, I do wonder whether or not if some people in government, and frankly, you know, and this is on both sides of the House, went outside and dared to make contact with ordinary people, maybe it would penetrate their skulls. But Sue, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. And good to see you again. It's been a little while, so thank you very much for everything.
You're welcome.
You take care. All right, God bless. It's Sue Ashcombe there, who is a GB News viewer, and you may remember her, I'm sure most of you do, from when we were raising money for Friends of the Elderly. By the way, I'm going to be catching up with the CEO, I think his title is, of Friends of the Elderly in the next few days, next couple of weeks, just to give you a little bit of an update about how some of your really kind donations have been spent. So, yeah, good stuff there. But I've got to read this from the Department for Work and Pensions now. They've released a statement. It is important the civil service is able to remunerate its staff in line with the private sector to attract and retain the best talent as it delivers on the government's commitment to working people. We have to make tough choices, but we're committed to supporting pensioners, with millions set to see their state pension rise by up to £1,900 this Parliament through our commitment to the triple lock, and over a million pensioners will still receive the winter fuel payment. Well, asked whether Labour will scrap prescriptions for the over 60s. So there's talk of Labour potentially scrapping free prescriptions for the over 60s, right? A Department of Health spokesperson said there are no plans to amend any of the prescription charge exemptions. Children, those aged 60 and over, pregnant women and those with medical conditions like cancer, epilepsy and diabetes remain exempt from charges, ensuring that anyone can access the vital medicines they need. Coming up, the very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages coming your way in just a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A very good evening to you. Now the sun has set, the temperatures are tumbling. Hard frost tonight. That'll be around for much of tomorrow morning. An ice risk in some areas and some places seeing further snow. We need to watch this weather front just pushing up from the south. The weather system that's brought all the snow recently has cleared away, but we've still got the winds coming down from the north. Plenty of snow showers still to come across Northern Ireland and northern and the west coast of Scotland. The snow showers we've seen through the day across northwest England, North Wales should fade away. For many, it's a dry night, clear night. And there's that hard frost, minus double digits in some parts of the countryside. So, yes, a very cold start to Wednesday. Still some snow showers over northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Still potentially very icy here first thing in the morning. Met Office yellow warning remains in place. Further covering of snow, further few centimetres through the night and into the morning. Same goes for Northern Ireland as well. Could also be a bit foggy here first thing, and we could have some fog patches too over northwest England, parts of the North Midlands. But most of England and Wales starting dry and very frosty, but down to the southwest, signs of a change. That weather front we saw earlier just nudging northwards. Some uncertainty about how much progress it makes, and that will be crucial for how much snow we see. At the moment, it looks like we'll see quite a bit of rain on the south coast, but there is the potential for some heavy snow for a time during Wednesday across southern counties of England. So there's a warning in place for that. As I say, just the potential at this stage, something we're keeping a close eye on. Further north for many places, dry and a bright day tomorrow, but it will be a cold one The winds, though, generally lighter, particularly over northern Scotland, where they've been perishing today. Still a few wintry showers coming in here. That mixture of sleet and snow and rain across the south scoots away through the evening time. Again, a hard frost for Thursday morning, so again, potentially icy in places, but for many places, a fine, bright, cold winter's day.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight, and I've got the very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you here. OK, we start with The Metro. Sick TikTok click shock grief for Labour. Party, sort of sounds like one of mine there. Party plugs Starmer with track boasting about sex, drugs and violence against girls. Yeah, they put out a clip a couple of days ago, to be honest now, that had some pretty problematic lyrics in it. Let's go to the Eye. Social media giants defy UK crackdown on online safety. Zuckerberg joins Musk in criticising the UK and the EU over online safety rules. Let's go to the Daily Mail. A&E in crisis as flu spikes. Now, we're going to be returning to a topic here flu-related in a second, but apparently a string of hospitals are declaring critical incidents. Infected patients are taking up 5,000 beds a day. 50-hour waits, supposedly, in A&E. The Sun. Rovers are out. Charlotte is the fifth big name to leave the street in a month. Coronation Street star. Now, if you're watching, Emily, this is the Sun's words and not mine. Coronation Street beauty Charlotte Jordan has quit the soap. I, of course, could not possibly comment on that. Let's go to The Guardian. Dismay as fact-checking ditched on Facebook in free speech trial. But the Guardian is utterly dismayed. They are dismayed that we might have a more rounded discussion about what is and is not factual on Facebook. Dismayed, I tell you. Oh, great.
How dare the public fact-check themselves?
How dare we be trusted with our own views? So, in case you couldn't tell, we are joined again by the panel here. I wanted to talk about this because it's loosely related, I think anyway, to what's on the Daily Mail's front page, which is the flu. But top British virus experts have urged Chinese authorities to disclose information about an outbreak of respiratory infection HMPV, which I thought was a music store, but apparently it's not.
Not anymore.
How old are you, Patrick? You're much too young for that.
One on Oxford Street, which is reported to be overwhelming its hospitals. All joking aside, latest UK surveillance data shows that as many as 1 in 20 respiratory infections could now be attributed to this HMPV, which cases are rising particularly sharply among children under 5, apparently. So the surge comes as Chinese hospitals reported being overwhelmed by it, primarily affecting children. Social media was showing these packed waiting rooms and all of this stuff. I am, well, I'm slightly concerned that China's got form for not being entirely honest about this kind of stuff, hasn't it? You're not concerned, Esther, or are you concerned?
What are you?
Yeah.
I would never.
No.
The Chinese not being honest about respiratory virus.
No.
You shock me.
I know, but here we go.
I'm too stunned to even speak.
Well, the problem is, honestly, apparently they've got cases in Europe, got cases in America. Apparently they're saying they've got cases here. Yeah. Maybe we should know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, well, we definitely should.
Nice.
Isn't this the job of the World Health Organization that seems to be now taken over by China? Like, this is the problem, isn't it? These institutions are now... I had a little flu, actually, before Christmas. It was horrendous.
Is that the HMV?
I don't know.
HMV? Is that the HMV?
Seriously, though, I'm sorry, but there is this sense, like, it's not happening again, is it? Jonathan?
No, the good thing is that most of the things that we worry about turn out to be things that we don't need to worry about that much. Obviously, it's very sad for people who are affected by it in China, but we just have to. You can't go through life getting sort of incredibly anxious about every single thing that happens, because that's just no way to live.
I just wonder what animal they're going to blame it on and what market. I think that's where we've got to start, and eventually we'll find out it was a lab leak or something, won't we? But that'll be 2 years after everyone's censored and.
So I'm not saying anything.
You can do the China virus accent.
I'm not doing anything.
Maybe we use the bleach.
I've been told I'm not allowed to.
Well, on that note, no, but it does look. Just delve into the actual seriousness of the Daily Mail's front page, which is A&E in crisis as flu spikes. So, OK, this may or may not be related to what we're seeing coming out of China, of course, but this string of hospitals declaring critical incidents. Now, part of me thinks this is winter, isn't it? Right? But the other part of me thinks, well, what is going on here? 50-hour waits to be admitted, more money than ever for our beloved NHS, and here we are.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Is it ever going to be a winter the NHS isn't in crisis? Although I will say, I had a really bad feeling. I was speaking to another one of our on-air stars not that long ago, who also said that she had a terrible flu. I was comatose for days, and so there's obviously something going round, and I know a lot of people in the country have had it. So I can understand why it was a bad flu, and I think I'm relatively fit and healthy, and it hurt me pretty bad. So I can understand if there is something going around that hospitals might need this care.
OK. Jonathan, how do you feel about it? So we've got some stats here. Apparently ambulances up to 18 deep formed outside hospitals. They wait hours to drop off arrivals, leaving them unable to respond to 999 calls. 5,000 beds a day taken up by patients infected by this particular flu virus. Is this a failure with NHS capacity? Is it a testament to how...
Maybe too many people in the country? I don't know.
Well, I think
Yeah, go on. Well,
I think it's partly the product. Bloody hell! I think it's partly the product of 14 years of
failure under the Tory government. Here we go. Here we go. We'll finish it off for you.
£22 billion black
hole. NHS in crisis. Fix the foundation of the country.
Was your father a toolmaker?
Oh, he was.
Are you a toolmaker?
I used to be director of the public prosecution.
That's actually not bad.
I'm going to just end this now. So I think that's enough of that, isn't it? And a shift in tone, it's fair to say.
Yes.
Because tremors in Nepal, Bhutan and India as a 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit Tibet in the early hours of this morning. Shall we have a little look at this? OK, this appears to be a shop, and there it goes. Look at that. Wow. Goodness gracious me.
Wow.
I'm just so glad we don't get anything like that in this country. I mean, I do remember when I was younger, there was the... we had a very small spate of tremors.
In Manchester? Yeah, I was there for that.
Yeah. You know where I actually physically was for that? I was in the Imperial War Museum watching... I was only a child, school trip, and we were watching, right, a thing about World War II. And we were like, God, this is good. Bombs are going off. Everyone was a bit like, oh, how did they do that? And then we came out, and we're only children. We looked at it like, no, we'd had a tremor. We'd actually had a tremor. But yes, there we go. I'm very grateful that we don't have to actually put up with the proper serious stuff here in Britain.
Oh, you just wait. After 4 years of Labour, we're getting earthquakes all over the place, Patrick.
I think you might be right.
Well, at the rate that immigration is going, when people...
Political earthquake,
I'm just
at least.
saying, 20 million new people.
We've exhausted Patrick tonight. Look at him.
No, it's
exhausted Patrick. What about bloody?
It's one way to do the news. No, it's all right. It's one way to do it. OK, so coming up, I've got loads more newspaper front pages for you, and we are going to be revealing today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. So don't you dare move.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're on the hunt for some winter sun, I'm afraid it's often going to be cloudy, also with some rain. Largely dry across central areas, but it is going to be windy at times. Some cloud and rain moving into parts of Madeira and Lisbon, though largely dry across Tenerife and largely dry across central areas of the Mediterranean too. But as we move further east, more cloud for parts of Italy and also Greece, and this could be thick enough to produce some rain at times. More in the way of sunshine towards the end of the week, and temperatures widely in the mid to high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And then fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop. You need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025, what can we expect fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollos and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. I've got some more of tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you now. The Daily Telegraph goes with this bizarre story, which is SAS faces war crimes accusation by rival unit. So a whistleblower tells inquiry of deliberate policy of executing Afghan civilians. The special forces have been accused of a deliberate policy to execute Afghans. It's evidence given to a public inquiry suspected war crimes. The whistleblower, who's going by a code name, told the inquiry. So there you go. Well, that will no doubt rumble. Trump, I will take Greenland and the Panama Canal. And he wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, doesn't he?
That's right, he does.
So he's having a right day of it.
Is this really necessary?
Well, I don't know, quite like it, to be honest with you. But anyway, The Times, patients to face 2-day waits in A&E and flu crisis. We were speaking about that earlier on. Apparently it's absolutely shocking in there, the amount of people with flu. Let's go to the Mirror. Predators Paradise. 700 staff and ex-workers start legal action over new abuse claims. This is in a McDonald's, apparently. An ex-McDonald's staff, they're suing the firm over allegations that bosses sexually abused them as teenagers. Goodness me. Daily Express, wrap up warm, -20 Arctic snow and ice blast hits UK. So apparently it is going to get seriously, seriously freezing. Britain is bracing.
If only we had like a little winter fuel allowance for some elderly people. That would have been helpful.
But we have just had a story, haven't we, about how trains were cancelled in this country because the ASLEF union, I believe it is, told train drivers not to step over snow at their depot, which makes you think, gosh, those pay rises were worth it.
And the NHS just put out guidance to show people how to walk on that snow, so maybe the unions should share that information and we can get the trains running in this country again. It's ridiculous, isn't it? They just got a bumper pay rise with no obligations to do anything better by the Labour government.
Most of that money will be eaten up in taxes, by the way. It's the same pay rise that the nurses got. Because the thresholds have stayed the same, they're now such high earners that they'll probably only see a fraction of that pay rise.
It's quite funny to see how the unions feel about having to pay more tax, won't it? But there we go. Now, earlier on, we were talking, of course, about a very, very serious story indeed, and with something we're doing a lot here on GB News, which has been about the grooming gang scandal, the Pakistani rape gang scandal. Now, earlier on, Jonathan, you mentioned that Reform didn't have anything on it in their manifesto.
No, I said that they didn't call for a new national inquiry in their manifesto. That was entirely correct, but a certain member of Parliament from the Reform Party has been calling in WhatsApping for this.
So Richard Tice has been
Richard Tice is watching, and he WhatsApped me in the interval and said, can you... referred me to the manifesto, and in the manifesto for Reform, it said stop the child grooming gangs, but it didn't call for a new inquiry, as they're calling now. So I was technically...
Maybe there were more concerns actually stopping it instead of holding pointless inquiries.
So apparently this is page 10, I believe, of what was the Reform Manifesto or contract with the people, I think it was. Stop child grooming gang. So that's in bold there. Deport offenders holding dual citizenship. Make child grooming an aggravating offence. Improve safeguarding of victims and vulnerable. And no bail for grooming gang offenders. So
I really hope when they go back to the next manifesto, they also write in there, hold people accountable for colluding and covering up, because I think that's a big part of it. And if Richard's watching, I hope he'll commit to doing that, because I know that Reform is the only party that has actually committed to doing something about this.
But just on the sort of aggravating offence, I'm pretty sure crimes against children, the fact that they're children is already an aggravating offence, period.
Well,
that's just...
You would hope so, wouldn't you?
That's the truth.
Yes, OK. All right. Well, on that note, then, I think we've just about got time for us to choose people's greatest Britons and Union jackasses of the day. I always look forward to this particular moment of the show. So, Esther, who's your greatest Briton, please?
So mine is, and I'm sorry if I butcher his name, Simi Kazazi, who's a landlord of the Italian Greyhound in Leicester. Now, he waded into freezing floodwater to save a 63-year-old woman who was trapped in her car.
Oh!
And I don't think many of us would do that because it's very cold right now.
OK, I probably would, but yeah, fine. If it was
you like to think so?
No, I think I know so if she was dying. But yeah, no, you know, well, let's hope we never have to find out.
Are you dying?
Alex,
Are you dying?
Go on, Alex, who's your greatest...
Well, look, it's a bit of a hard one this week, but I've gone for an honorary. It's Donald Trump, because he has come out and said he wants the hostages returned, some of which are British, by the way. He wants them returned by the time he's president, and he's doing more than our current government are to bring those hostages
that's
back.
Interesting, because also Trump is, apart from that being a very good reason to nominate him, of course, he's also talking about buying Greenland, and apparently Trump Jr. is...
about invading it.
Is that... Yeah. Well, Trump...
Patrick.
Well, but he's that... Trump Jr. is currently in Greenland.
It's not very green, apparently.
No, it's not. It's not. And renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
I think it's just something else.
And that serious man for serious times.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to say that. If you are American now, though, why wouldn't you want Greenland?
Why not?
It's not about what America wants. Greenland is a land that's populated by people who don't want to be American, and that's all there is to it.
Well, of course, Elon Musk has also said, shall we liberate Britain?
Well, no,
I mean,
the Prime Minister doesn't.
We've also got the
you don't know about the people.
State Canada. We've called him Governor Trudeau. We're about to find that America's about to become a colonial power. Who knows?
Be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, it kind of technically is. Look at Puerto Rico.
Well, there you go. So Trump's on the ballot sheet. Go on. Who's your greatest Briton?
My greatest Briton is Jess Phillips, who, as Esther said, has done more than anyone in the Commons to fight for the rights of victims of sex abuse, and it's completely despicable the way she's been treated.
All the way up until she had some power to do something.
No, that is completely unfair.
That's not
completely unfair.
But, OK, she's not won. Today's winner of the
expect you to support it.
No, it's fine. Is the pub man, Kazazi, who rescued a 63-year-old woman from his pub. Very quickly now, Union Jackass, please, very quickly.
Ed Davey. Do I need to explain why?
No, go on.
Mine is Mark Zuckerberg. He's decided to do the fact-checking stuff only when it's politically expedient for him, you know, the day that the election is certified.
I like the fact, though, that Nick Clegg has now had a massive bus driven over him by both David Cameron and Mark Zuckerberg. But go on, yep.
Mine's Robert Generic for being a self-serving, grifting slimeball.
Wow! Wow! Robert Jenrick will deny that. OK.
Be kind, left.
So I am going to go...
Be truthful, be honest.
Who was yours again?
Ed Davey.
Oh, yeah, why not? OK, all right. All right, guys. So, look, headliners are up next with an even more detailed look at... Even more, believe it or not, detailed look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Thank you very much to everybody who's been watching and listening tonight and tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow from 9 p.m. And thank you to everybody who's been on my panel this evening. It's been an eclectic mix of shows. Yeah, keep it GB News for the next hour, because the wonderful headliners team will be here to entertain you for that next hour. So I'll see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Take care.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A very good evening to you. Now the sun has set, the temperatures are tumbling. Hard frost tonight. That'll be around for much of tomorrow morning. An ice risk in some areas and some places seeing further snow. We need to watch this weather front just pushing up from the south. The weather system that's brought all the snow recently has cleared away, but we've still got the winds coming down from the north. Plenty of snow showers still to come across Northern Ireland and northern and the west coast of Scotland. The snow showers we've seen through the day across northwest England, North Wales should fade away. For many, it's a dry night, clear night. And there's that hard frost, minus double digits in some parts of the countryside. So yes, a very cold start to Wednesday. Still some snow showers over northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Still potentially very icy here first thing in the morning. Met Office yellow warning remains in place. Further covering of snow, further few centimetres through the night and into the morning. Same goes for Northern Ireland as well. Could also be a bit foggy here first thing, and we could have some fog patches too over northwest England, parts of the North Midlands. But most of England and Wales starting dry and very frosty, but down to the southwest, signs of a change. That weather front we saw earlier just nudging northwards. Some uncertainty about how much progress it makes, and that will be crucial for how much snow we see. At the moment, it looks like we'll see quite a bit of rain on the south coast, but there is the potential for some heavy snow for a time during Wednesday across southern counties of England. So there's a warning in place for that. As I say, just the potential at this stage, something we're keeping a close eye on. Further north for many places, dry and a bright day tomorrow, but it will be a cold one. The winds, though, generally lighter, particularly over northern Scotland, where they've been perishing today. Still a few wintry showers coming in here. That mixture of sleet and snow and rain across the south scoots away through the evening time. Again, a hard frost for Thursday morning, so again, potentially icy in places. But for many places, a fine, bright, cold winter's day.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang. From treats to holidays to fun times with the family, a totally tax-free £50,000 in cash could make you feel alive in 2025. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries costs £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Before she even met Prince Harry, her passion was sharing recipe tips, lifestyle, wellness techniques, because she had a blog, quite a successful blog actually, called The Tig. Of course, that had to be shut down when she became a working member of the royal family. We all know the turmoil that happened with Megxit. Now that her and Harry have come out the other side of that and have signed multi-million-pound deals with Netflix and others, this is the proof in the pudding, pardon the pun, and it is basically, I suspect, the TIG 2.0, because we've got everybody, she has managed to get everybody talking about this. You know, the royal family has been dragged through turmoil over the last few years because partly due to Harry and Meghan's decision, partly due to the royal family's decision, but this is kind of what's come out the other side.
Which is a load of nonsense. I mean, the fact, because it's all totally fake, isn't it? I mean, it's not her house, it's not her kitchen. She clearly doesn't spend her days picking strawberries and collecting honey from bees. I mean, the whole thing's just a fabrication.
Well, it's Netflix fantasy, isn't it? So I think any lifestyle programme such as this tends to not be filmed in the host's house. It's reportedly a $5 million rented house. The cooker itself is worth about $15,000. Even the pans are about $80 as well that she is using. So yes, Stephen, you're right. It is kind of fake and fantasy, but then, of course, that's how these lifestyle programmes are made. It's whether the question will be when you watch the series, if you decide to watch the series, is Meghan trying to portray herself as this authentic self, or is she going to make it clear that, you know, this is just like the best bits of her life? But she's got lots of celebrity friends involved in it, including her makeup artists and others as well. Prince Harry makes an appearance.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out who's saving social media from fact-checkers, what school kids have got to be so happy about, and what totally reasonable and achievable goal Andrew Tate's got in his sights now. I'm Cressida Wetton, and tonight I've got comedians Leo Kearse and Jonathan Cogan taking you through Wednesday's top stories. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Cressida, thank you very much. The top stories. Jess Phillips says she has more important things to be thinking about than Elon Musk after he accused her of being a rape genocide apologist. The safeguarding minister has hit back at the billionaire's criticism of her for the first time.
Being in the spotlight like this and the intimation of what Elon Musk is, the disinformation, as I believe the Prime Minister referred to it as, has put out about me, it's endangering.
It's endangering you. I just want to be absolutely clear. Are you saying that as a result of some of Musk's tweets, the threat to you has gone up and things are in place to protect your safety?
Yes.
Professor Alexis Jay, who chaired the independent inquiry, said today that people should just get on with implementing the recommendations made in previous inquiries. The comments come as the Prime Minister dismissed calls for a national inquiry yesterday, accusing the Conservatives of jumping on a bandwagon. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick today called once again for that national inquiry. A 14-year-old boy has been stabbed to death on a bus in Woolwich in south-east London. The Metropolitan Police says an investigation has now been launched. The incident occurred on a Route 472 bus on Woolwich Church Road. A police statement says paramedics treated him, but the boy died shortly after medics arrived at the scene. Superintendent Louise Sargent said the alarm was initially raised by a local police officer out on parole. No arrests have yet been made. And the Health Secretary says he feels ashamed at the experiences of some patients in the NHS, admitting that some patients are being taken to hospital to die because the right care is not available when they need it. His comments come after a number of NHS trusts in England have declared critical incidents. The number of people in England's hospitals with flu quadrupled in the last month. The Royal Liverpool University Hospital declared a critical incident this afternoon due to exceptionally high demand on emergency care. It's understood the longest time one patient waited to be admitted to a ward at that hospital was 50 hours. Several other NHS trusts later declared critical incidents, with one saying it's seen high numbers of older patients with respiratory issues exacerbated by the cold weather. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories with three comedians. Before we dive in, let's take a look at what Leo and Jonathan will have to work with on Wednesday's front pages. The Mail leads with A&E in crisis as flu spikes. The Guardian has dismay as fact-checking ditched on Facebook in free speech drive. There isn't dismay everywhere. The Sun has Rovers and out. The Eye has social media giants defy UK crackdown on online safety. The Metro has sick TikTok click shock for Labour. And finally, the Daily Star has how to survive a Yeti attack. OK, let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with Wednesday's Guardian, Leo.
So
So The Guardian leads with dismay as fact-checking ditched on Facebook in free speech drive. But like you say, it's not dismay. It's amazing. We're going to have free speech. You know, like we have in free societies. Of course, The Guardian want all our speech to be policed like they have in the Soviet Union, which apparently is a model society if you're a Guardian journalist. But yeah, this is great. Basically, Mark Zuckerberg is going to replace... By the way, fact-checking, like the fact-checking on comments isn't going away. They're going to let community notes replace it, which is a much better system. It's free, it's democratic, it's literally free. You don't have to pay anything for it, which might be part of the appeal. And the move is being seen as a pivot towards Donald Trump. So, you know, the community is going to police itself. We're going to let people say, you know, if a post is wrong, they can call out.
So what that means then is that the fact-checking that's community notes, people say, no, that's not right, Leo's talking rubbish, this is what really happened. Yeah. And if I'm right, then lots of people give me a thumbs up. And if I'm the one talking rubbish...
Yep. I mean, it's never happened before. You know, I've been found out to be not speaking the truth. But yeah, he's also going to move his content moderation teams, the ones that are left, from California to Texas.
That's so funny. Yeah. Now, we're not saying they're too biased, but we're going to change states from these liberal cucks to these absolute chads. That's basically what he said.
No more blue hair. We're going to have cowboy hats.
Yeah.
So this is great. This is all good. I mean, it is a bit sort of duplicitous of Zuckerberg to be doing this just because Donald Trump's been elected. But still, Donald Trump's been elected. This is happening. It's brilliant. And also, I think Musk and Zuckerberg, they're tech visionaries, so they look into the future. They see where a country is going, and they don't like where the left was taking the country. And I think that's why Musk is so involved in Britain now. You can see where, you know, the Labour Party and, I mean, to be honest, the establishment ideas about multiculturalism and open borders and all the rest of it, you can see where that's taking the country. So there's big change with these things.
In the shorter term, aren't we just all leaving Facebook anyway? Isn't this like market research?
But also Instagram is very much, you know, under the same meta handle, and that's a huge platform.
Because nobody made him do this. This isn't legislation. He's just decided it's a good business.
I think he's had a spiritual change of heart. He's now a ripped dude. He's like a cool guy now. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. He's got long curly hair for some reason. He's baggy t-shirts. He's not the dork we all knew and loved back then. He's a new man.
This is a serious point. As soon as you get testosterone in your system, as soon as you start lifting weights and, you know, taking care of yourself and being able to defend yourself, you stop being left-wing because you don't need the government to come along and wipe your bottom for you.
Well, there's something in that, isn't there?
Yeah, and also the left-wing governments sort of posed an existential threat to social media platforms. I mean, the online safety bill in the UK, for example, would have levied, you know, really just fines that could have destroyed entire social media companies. They would have been so big. It was like 10% of gross revenue, which is just ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, that would have just crippled.
But that could still be a problem in Europe, couldn't it? I was listening to Toby Young earlier talking about the fact that America's kind of First Amendment, free speech facing.
So this is the online safety bill stuff?
No, I'm talking just about regulating themselves.
Right, OK.
If we go around saying that social media platforms are responsible for their content in Europe, that isn't the way America sees it, so that could cause some friction. I still don't think...
Trump's just going to storm the Normandy beaches again. He's going to take back Europe. He's going to make it free. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to love it.
Sounds great. OK, let's have a look at the Metro, please, Jonathan.
In the Metro, sick TikTok click shock for Labour. A very, very well-written headline there. So, party plug Starmer with track boasting about sex, drugs and violence against girls, which does seem very on-brand for Labour, if I'm completely honest. So, Labour has apologised for launching a bizarre political promo on TikTok where they got a bunch of AI animals, but the issue here is not the AI art, which sometimes can be cool, in my humble opinion. It's the fact that this song was basically, what was it? Punching young women in the... Leo?
That's the lyric. I mean, I think it's
I think we've got a clip.
They stole my act. Let's cut to a clip.
I hope it's clean.
So we didn't actually...
That had been cleaned up, had it?
Yeah, I think it's Brazilian or something as well, so it'll be in Portuguese, but yeah.
Well, that's like a song for 5-year-olds out there. They have very different standards.
If you listen to reggaeton music, I've learned don't listen to the English lyrics version. Keep it in Spanish, it sounds cool.
Yeah. I just listened to Morris dancing, so...
Well,
brilliant.
I mean, I think this was just it's an innocent mistake, but it's Labour, so let's stick it to them.
Well, yeah, and it's either gross incompetence or they didn't actually check what song that they're doing. To do this, just as the grooming gangs crisis hits a crescendo...
Oh, that's a good point. It's bad timing.
Put a song out saying, punch young girls in the vagina. I mean, that's horrific timing. So it's either gross incompetence or it's a message to the grooming gangs saying, don't worry, we're still on your side.
I'm going to go with the former, not the latter. OK, let's have a look at the Times, Leo.
So the Times has defence firms to skip careers fairs over fears of student protests. So defence companies have stopped attending university careers fairs and events because of security fears over protesters, affecting recruitment at a time of heightened global threats. I mean, surely if anyone can defend themselves against a bunch of students, it's BAE Systems or Raytheon. You know what I mean?
You would hope. I mean, you couldn't make it work.
Javelin strike. But yeah, there's something sick about this current generation. We've got the war in Ukraine showing how weapons are absolutely necessary and our defence systems are absolutely necessary to keep our countries free and defend our borders. And I don't know, there just seems to be a real shift in how people think. So I worked at BAE Systems. I worked in the sort of intelligence wing of it, and it was seen. We got
the guy who did the drones.
We got not these ones. Mine were powered by a rubber band. But we got a lot of Cambridge graduates and all the rest of it who saw it as they could have gone into banking, they could have gone into very lucrative careers, but they saw it as almost like an honour to serve their country by doing intelligence stuff for weapons manufacturers and for the defence industry.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, how do we recruit young people now if one of the main places to get the high ability students is no longer targeted?
I'd like to think that somebody that was capable of working in defence might not need the careers fair, but it's not really the point, is it?
Yeah, I guess it's a sort of symbolic retraction.
I can't believe the universities let this happen.
Also, they allow OnlyFans recruiters into the school. I don't think I'm even joking, unless you're laughing, in which case I'm joking. Yeah.
Very hard to tell. I don't know how you...
I don't know anymore. I'm lost.
Money. It's not all from hand modelling, is it?
Well, it's only hands. It's something I do.
Perfect. OK. Patients to face 2-day waits at A&E and flu crisis, the usual.
Yeah, unless you're an illegal immigrant, then you're seen in 15 minutes. I'm not even joking. I mean, there's you talk about things being too ridiculous to be true. We've seen that illegal migrants and I think drug users and homeless people can access the service that lets them get seen in 15 minutes. So if you do have flu and you want to be seen, dress up like a homeless person or turn up at the beach and you'll be seen within 15 minutes.
What can a doctor do if you have flu, though? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but do take my advice. I thought you just had to, rest it out.
I think if it gets really bad...
True for you, a fit young man like you, Jonathan, but not for more vulnerable, delicate people.
Oh, well, they should try harder. No, not really, I don't mean that.
OK, anything else on the Times, or shall we move along?
Inside the mind of Elon Musk. Awesome.
Oh, yeah, tell us.
Yeah, well, I think it's mostly just the sort of microchips and a very advanced AI. But, yeah, he's a cool guy. I like him.
Excellent.
More Musk.
Let's have a look at the... No, we've done the Times. Let's go to the Telegraph, Jonathan.
So a few stories on here. So Tories want bar on migrants from countries with medieval cultures. So migrants from cultures with medieval attitudes towards women should be blocked from countries coming to Britain. And Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, has said that some of these cultures are backward and, frankly, medieval in their attitudes towards women. Robert, which ones are you talking about? You have to be more specific, Robert. Is it the King Arthur roleplay guys with their medieval attitudes?
Well, this is the thing. This stuff would never happen in medieval England. If anything, he's been generous to these cultures. I mean, he's been criticised as smearing them, but, I mean, in Afghanistan, they're banning windows so you can't see women through them. In Pakistan, a council ordered a revenge rape, so a rapist, the victim's family, the brother of the rape victim was allowed to rape the sister of the rapist.
To be clear, that's a story in another country. You're not talking about... You did say that.
Yeah, this is a story in another culture.
Story.
But this is the culture that he's saying, this is the culture we brought to the UK, and the culture that he's saying is medieval. I mean, that's way beyond medieval. That's sub-medieval. That's barbaric. And, this wasn't happening at the, in the court of King Arthur.
But as Jonathan says, we know what he's getting at.
Yeah.
And, of course, there have been some calls for Kevin Badenoch to sack him over this.
Promote him.
Well,
promote him to Prime Minister.
I mean, if you can't speak out against the, rape and sexual abuse of thousands of young girls, then you're not a person. You should be speaking out about that, if it's your position to do so.
And of course, we're seeing that you literally still cannot, even decades on in this grooming gang crisis, you still can't speak out about it or criticise the cultures without being accused of racism. And it's an absolute nonsense. And it's completely denaturing the word racist. Now it means nothing. Now, the words far right and racist have been, turned. The left have turned them into something positive, which is ridiculous.
Well, that's true, isn't it? This week we did have our dear leader, Keir Starmer, aligning people who are concerned about the rape gangs with being on the far right. He didn't say they were far right, but he said that they were supporting their view or what's the word I'm looking for, their agenda, which is totally unsympathetic to people's legitimate concerns, I think. OK. Trump, I'll take Greenland and Panama Canal.
Yeah, so this is great.
He's expanding.
Yeah, Donald Trump is a bit of a departure from the woke left who try and give away parts of their country, like your Starmer with the Chagos Islands. So Trump is like, Greenland, that's American now. The weather's getting better, so that snow's going to melt. We'll have that.
But it's a very small country. It's like 50,000.
It's a huge landmass,
right.
But yeah, small country, and I think owned by Denmark, if countries can be owned.
Right.
He's also going to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which is just, man, I love this guy. It's like WWF.
Big rebrand.
The politics.
Anything else on the Telegraph?
Now that Trudeau's done, he's going to take Canada as well. You heard it here first.
There you go.
Hopefully he'll take Britain as well.
Yeah. Would you agree to that?
Oh, man, that would be like my dream.
Yeah?
Imagine. I wouldn't have to move to America. America would move to me.
That's true. I'll get so fat.
Amazing. Let's have a quick look at the Daily Star, please, Leo.
So the Daily Star has totally mega important tips from Brian Blessed, how to survive a Yeti attack. So spoiler alert, it involves running away very, very fast. And there's a picture of a Yeti chasing Nigel Farage. It's not the actual real Nigel Farage. This is some sort of, they stuck his head on something else. But yeah, Brian Blessed has said, who climbed Everest, was filmed doing it in sort of woolen pyjamas. Booming his voice, which must have caused some avalanches. But yeah, he's saying this is how you avoid a Yeti attack. They're very easy to avoid because Yetis don't exist.
No, they're interdimensional walkers. They phase between dimensions. That's why they're never caught.
That's my favourite brand of crisps, interdimensional walkers.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's the front pages looked at. Still to come, who's going to kiss and make up in politics and what connects Elon Musk to the great British public? We'll find out. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Have you noticed that more and more stores are closing? Well, last year, apparently 13,000 stores closed for the last time on the high street.
Well, experts warn the worst is still to come for our small businesses.
Well, let's talk to retail expert Jeremy Baker. Good morning to you, Jeremy. How bad is it and what can be done?
Well, nothing can be done about it. Retail is like that. It's boom and bust operation. So last year, let's say you had a shop and it was booming. This year, the consumer can just change their mind. They don't need to come back to your shop ever again.
Well, it is sad, Jeremy, because our high streets are the beating heart of our communities, aren't they? And for many people, I know I can relate to my high street, it is such a depressing sight, walking down there and seeing them all boarded up and closed down.
But how often do you walk down the boarded up high street? I think people move on to something else. The online world is very big, and lots of other things are very exciting. And so people, the shop. I like to go to my GP in a shopping centre and get my tests done there rather than tramp off all the way to the GP, for example. And children could go to little schools in the high street. I've seen that happen already. So lots of things could happen to the high street. It could be much more a social centre, much more kind of like pubs, coffee shops, all that. Charities. I don't see anything wrong with charities taking over. But the idea of this shop-centred high street finished, that's gone. Never coming back. Goodbye. It's not sad, it's just life.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm still here with comedians Leo Kirst and Jonathan Cogan. I've been looking at your say in the break. This is GB News. What is it? www.gbnews.com/your say. You can leave your comments.
We make them up.
For our show. No, they're real. And this one's from Nanny McPhee, who says, Headliners, you have a devil in your mix. Check the horn on his hairstyle, Cressida.
So apparently I have a cowlick. My dad texted in to say get rid of it. Look, my hair is looking rather debonair and I'm fat after Christmas, so don't look at me.
And your dad's called Nanny McPhee?
That's what he makes me call him, yes.
OK.
So, a strange relationship.
Let's start this section.
I think we should talk about it a bit more.
With The Independent, it's the will they, won't they of the year now, Jonathan.
Sorry, the term is actually now will they, won't them. Thank you very much. Nigel Farage said he hopes to mend relationship with Elon Musk on trip to US for Donald Trump's inauguration. So at the weekend, Elon Musk called for Nigel to be replaced as Reform leader in a very public spat over jailed far-right political activist Tommy Robinson. But this is just after hours after Nigel Farage was basically bigging up Elon, saying that he's a great guy.
Yeah.
So it's
2 weeks after Musk was bigging up Farage and possibly offering him $100 million.
it turned on a dime. I don't know what went on behind the scenes.
I was in a pub when I saw the tweet. I just opened Twitter and kind of read it, and I was like, I honestly thought, like, he's left his laptop open. Someone's come along and like...
It's a Twitter freight. That's funny. But the plan is now essentially for Nigel to go over to America and mend any fences between them. And I reckon he can do that. I reckon he's got the diplomatic skills.
He's been very gracious, hasn't he? He hasn't lost his head. He's done a typical Nigel, just calm.
Relax. Yeah, I think he's come out of this. It's worked out really well for him. He looks good. He stood by his principles. He stood up to Musk. He kept a cool head. So yeah, it comes out good. Although I do slightly agree with Musk's original criticism of him.
I'm not sure that I do, because you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with. I disagree with it in terms of, like, elections are won from the centre. Right, exactly. People are already sort of assuming that Nigel Farage is going to be the next Prime Minister, and they're saying, no, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, you're going to win anyway. And it's like, no, you've got, like, 6 MPs, 5 MPs?
Yeah,
so it's a long way
stay on target.
There.
OK, staying with the Telegraph, Jonathan, who's your ultimate all-time hero?
It's got to be that Lily Phillips woman, I think. She's a feminist icon, hunting men.
Do you know what I've done? No, go back. You're quite right. It's my fault. This is why I can't be trusted with this. Staying with the... No, that's it. Not it.
Why don't we
skip the story.
do that
Telegraph
story
now. And is Elon Musk auditioning for Who Do You Think You Are, Leo?
So Musk, my grandmother might have been a grooming gang victim in modern Britain. So a bit of context here. They haven't switched to grannies. This is just Elon Musk. He's tweeting about, why he feels such an affinity with Britain, and he's talking about his grandmother, who's Cora Amelia Robinson. I wonder if she's a relation. And she grew up very poor in England during the Great Depression, only to be bombed in World War II. To earn money for food, she cleaned houses, leaving me, or Musk, with a lasting respect for those who do so. My nana was one of the poor working-class girls with no one to protect her, who might have been abducted in present-day Britain. And he's correct. I mean, the British dream is now to earn enough money that, your child won't be abused by a grooming gang.
So you can move to America.
Since it broke, I've had friends contact me saying, that know people who were abused by grooming gangs. It's sort of coming out of the woodwork, stuff that in families that wasn't spoken about before is coming out.
The numbers are staggering.
It's a much more widespread thing than people assumed, I think. And obviously, you know, people like Ed Davey and Jeremy Corbyn are coming out and telling Musk to shut up. I think Ed Davey should shut up and just go to Centre Parks and do some canoeing. You absolute wazzock.
Jonathan,
I concur. Go do some canoeing.
You don't think that Musk is kind of like...
It's a bit of a reach, perhaps.
Right.
Like, I don't think he's, you know, technically wrong, but I guess almost anyone can say that who's had a grandma in this country who's not particularly...
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's like this applies to most people, but then maybe that's the point.
Yeah.
You know, we're all human, we're all potentially vulnerable.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. OK, so moving on, staying with the Telegraph. Jonathan, who's your all-time ultimate hero?
And as I said before, Lily Phillips. Doesn't work the second time, already the first. You know, I was number 76 in that 100 lineup. It's grim. It's
Read
so grim.
the headline, please.
Jean-Marie Le Pen, hard-right provocateur of French politics who won millions of votes. I assume it dies. It's not on here, but yeah.
Well, weirdly, it doesn't say... That's why I thought my joke, had I not messed it up, would have worked, because it doesn't say that, and that's not a typo. I think they're just laying out a timeline of what he got up to.
Oh, fair enough. Well, he's dead. All right? As Francis Foster said, why do the good die young? So Jean-Marie Le Pen, the leader of the French Front National from 72 to 2011, has died at the age of 96, and he was a very rumbustious and rackety, outrageous figure on the margins of French politics, very divisive. But he's died, and I guess in some sense his legacy lives on through his daughter. And yeah, I think he was I'm no fan, but I think he was ahead of his time in that a lot of the populist, leaning quite far right politics is now sort of making quite a big wave in Europe.
Some of his concerns are current concerns.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, a lot of the things he warned about are being shown to be quite accurate. I mean, and a lot of his policies have been implemented in countries such as the UAE. So, you know, they expel illegal immigrants, they prioritise their own nationals, citizens of their own country for housing and jobs and things like that. We also saw Charlie Hebdo. It was the anniversary of Charlie Hebdo, the massacre that killed, I think, 11 people, 10 people over cartoons, which is ridiculous, and that was by Islamists. So, you know, he predicted a lot of the horrific stuff that's happened. And we've seen the steady rise of the Le Pen dynasty and also the sort of detoxification of the Front National. And they've always tried to keep the sort of cordon sanitaire around Marine Le Pen, around the Front National. But it's starting to break, and it's getting to the point where, you know, the other parties can't work together. Because you've got, like, they're having to bring the Communist Party into the cordon sanitaire to keep enough numbers to keep Marine Le Pen out. And the Communist Party are infinitely worse than the Front National because they're the Communist Party. People are absolutely insane. I don't know how how the West managed to swing so far to the left that they think communists are all right and Marine Le Pen isn't.
It's a long march to the institutions. Yeah, that's why.
Independent next, Leo, and the DWP might benefit from guidance on debt collection from Carol Vorderman.
So, so the DWP paid £500 million to dead pensioners, figures reveal. A welfare loophole means the DWP, Department for Work and Pensions, is unlikely to ever recover the money. So since 2019, half a billion, slightly over £500 million, has been overpaid in state pension and pension credit, and only half of that has been claimed back. So the overpayments represent 0.1% of total annual expenditure on pensions. So we're talking like an accounting error in the grand scheme of things, even though it's a big number. But pensions are a big number, and this is a big issue facing the West that nobody's really confronting. We're kicking the can down the road, but we're paying out £150 billion every year just on the state pension. Never mind, you know, other things, housing and healthcare and all the rest of it. So at some point, we're going to have to raise the pension age. At the moment, the economy is working as a Ponzi scheme where they're like, oh, no, we'll bring in, you know, young people to work from overseas. You can't keep doing that forever. Look at the social friction.
They tried that in France, right?
They tried it here.
How did that go? Not so well.
They tried it in ancient Rome. It's not a sure sign for civilization.
OK, Jonathan, anything on the DWP?
Well, I like the fact that there's no legal obligation for people to pay it back. It's non-recoverable and it's not enforceable by law. So it's kind of like a come on, guys, give it back, which no one's really doing. So, you know,
there you go.
Be ungovernable.
Still to come, is there more evidence of the end of woke? Is being a school teacher getting even easier? And is it getting even easier if you're an American? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A very good evening to you. Now the sun has set, the temperatures are tumbling. Hard frost tonight. That'll be around for much of tomorrow morning. An ice risk in some areas and some places seeing further snow. We need to watch this weather front just pushing up from the south. The weather system that's brought all the snow recently has cleared away, but we've still got the winds coming down from the north. Plenty of snow showers still to come across Northern Ireland and northern and the west coast of Scotland. The snow showers we've seen through the day across northwest England, North Wales should fade away. For many, it's a dry night, clear night. And there's that hard frost, minus double digits in some parts of the countryside. So yes, a very cold start to Wednesday. Still some snow showers over northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Still potentially very icy here first thing in the morning. Met Office yellow warning remains in place. Further covering of snow, further few centimetres through the night and into the morning. Same goes for Northern Ireland as well. Could also be a bit foggy here first thing, and we could have some fog patches too over northwest England, parts of the North Midlands. But most of England and Wales starting dry and very frosty, but down to the southwest, signs of a change. That weather front we saw earlier just nudging northwards. Some uncertainty about how much progress it makes, and that will be crucial for how much snow we see. At the moment, it looks like we'll see quite a bit of rain on the south coast, but there is the potential for some heavy snow for a time during Wednesday across southern counties of England. So there's a warning in place for that. As I say, just the potential at this stage, something we're keeping a close eye on. Further north for many places, dry and a bright day tomorrow, but it will be a cold one. The winds, though, generally lighter, particularly over northern Scotland, where they've been perishing today. Still a few wintry showers coming in here. That mixture of sleet and snow and rain across the south scoots away through the evening time. Again, a hard frost for Thursday morning, so again, potentially icy in places. But for many places, a fine, bright, cold winter's day.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's recap Wednesday's front pages. The Daily Mail has A&E in crisis as flu spikes. The Guardian has dismay as fact-checking ditched on Facebook in Free Speech Drive. The Sun has Rovers and out. And The Eye has social media giants defy UK crackdown on online safety. The Metro has sick TikTok click shock for Labour. And finally, the Daily Star has how to survive a Yeti attack. So I've been looking at your say again in the break. You've been sending in your comments. Jules Nobody says, Wazzock, I haven't heard that for ages, laughy face. So good use of Wazzock. And Tim Sace says, Jonathan's on fire tonight. He's had me in stitches even better than Leo the Lion, my usual favourite.
Really?
The Nana McPhee comment was hilarious.
I thought I've been really subpar.
No.
Yeah. I've not done anything insightful and only a little bit funny.
Well, some of our viewers are easily pleased.
Well, they're not well. They're not well people.
Well. They're very well.
They're not well people.
Very
Go
well
outside.
Adjusted. Stop it. Starting with Wednesday's Independent.
Thank you, Beth.
And talented writers like Margaret Atwood are reactivating their Facebook accounts now, Leo.
So the Royal Society of Literature is in chaos as director quits amid infighting and free speech rows. So dozens of high-profile writers, including Margaret Atwood, who wrote The Handmaid's Tale. That is it's a sort of look into a sort of utopian society where everything's perfect. Kazuo Ishiguro and Dame Marina Warner have all criticised the current leadership of the Royal Society of Literature. So the Civil War is thought to have begun when calls for it to robustly publicly support Salman Rushdie in the wake of his attempted murder were reportedly blocked. So they sort of quietly just blocked any of that.
It's offensive.
And the director, who's Bernardine Evaristo, allegedly said the move might give offence, which is ridiculous. I mean, standing up for basic artistic freedom and expression is offensive now. It's ridiculous.
She said that they cannot take sides in writers' controversies and issues. Of course you remain impartial. And Rushdie himself, he's come back on X and said, just wondering if the Royal Society of Literature is impartial about attempted murder.
Well, they seem to be. They seem to be. Oh no, we can't talk about this attempted murder because we wouldn't want to be seen to be offending the Islamist community. Obviously, Salman Rushdie, but they probably do see that it's a woke cause. Killing Salman Rushdie is wokeism because it's a marginalised ethnic minority Muslim trying to decolonise Salman Rushdie.
It's not just about that, though. It's not about offence. There's also stuff in here about the standards just slipping. Which is what I think happens whenever you introduce DEI to anything, right?
If it's not a meritocracy, you'd let in people based on their characteristics rather than their ability, which is sort of very, very patronising to people of those ethnicities or whatever who get in on ability. So, yeah, because people might think they're not. Basically, it doesn't work, and God bless us all. Get back to meritocracies.
And I think, Bernardine Evaristo might be trans. If she isn't, then she's...
I don't think she is.
Let's cut to a picture.
There's no...
There we go. Oh, no, it's me. Oh, that's Jonathan. He's definitely not.
I definitely don't think she is. And it's not relevant. We're in the Telegraph next. Those who can do, those who can't do 4.5 days, Jonathan.
Nice. The 4-day working week is coming for our schools. So the Community Schools Trust in East London, has a teacher recruitment package that leaves the competition in the shade. So the Trust gives teachers and pupils Friday afternoons off. Would you believe it? So Simon Elliott, the chief executive of the Trust, which runs 6 schools in London and Norfolk, basically says that you can have the afternoon off on Friday. If you want to get the train to Paris, do it. If you want to go to the pub, do it. If you want to get on a 6-day ketamine binge, just do it and find God. Like, it's fine. The Fridays are yours now. But who looks after the kids, Cressida?
Well, who does look after the kids? Because we're leading to a society where everybody works 4 days a week, aren't we? Because the parents can't be at work and looking after their kids.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the schools realise that they're just babysitting services. Like, we don't expect them to teach the kids anything. They go there to keep them out of our faces while we earn enough money to raise our kids. It's ridiculous. And I teach my kids all they need to know. They learn about, how to throw a knife, how to handle a gun. I think this is just a move by Labour. They want grooming gangs to have more time to abuse kids. So if they've got a longer weekend...
You heard it here first.
I don't think that's the case.
It might be a conspiracy theory now, but in a few months.
This absolutely affects poorer, disadvantaged children disproportionately, doesn't it?
Yeah, because their parents are at work. So where are they going to go? They're going to go take drugs, do all the fun stuff.
It's going to be like a Hunger Games situation, I think. Just let them fend for themselves, hope for the best.
It's a real luxury belief. We need to prioritise mental health, so therefore you should have a day off. I don't think there's any evidence for that. I think that's the last thing you want to be doing.
Spending time with family is for the mental health. Let's see.
More great news for disadvantaged kids now in The Independent, Leo.
So there's a very real crisis in foster care as Bernardo's charity issues a warning over a sharp fall in applications. So Bernardo's is saying that ballooning living costs and working from home are contributing to a decline in foster carers because if you're working from home, you're using the spare room. Also, kids are staying with their parents in the family home for longer, so there isn't the space in the house. And experienced foster carers are retiring. I mean, this is really sad. So they're having to put kids who would have gone into foster care, having to put them into residential care home placements. And the kids, you can imagine the psychological impact it's going to have on the kids, like feeling unwanted, getting moved around from pillar to post. It's also incredibly expensive. It's £10,000 per week per child for these care home placements. And
£10,000 per week per child.
That does seem very high.
extraordinary.
You could put them in boarding school.
Some of them are paying. Some councils are paying over £10,000 per week per child, and this, these kids are the most vulnerable. So grooming gangs targeted these kids in care homes because nobody looks after a kid better than the parents or somebody who's assumed that parental role. I think if you've got a care home, sometimes resources are stretched, and it's tragic that I think a society that doesn't value children dies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really sad. And this is what we expect, isn't it? If things are getting tough, if we've got a cost of living crisis, it's not the people in the previous story, there are private schools saying, oh, let's do 4 days a week. That would have a direct impact on these kids because they need to be in school if they don't have anywhere to be.
Yes, it's the most vulnerable with the least economic safety you get most affected. I saw this documentary about this guy who was in one of these residential foster places, and then he just joined this gang of pickpockets, and they had this old Jewish guy running it, and it really didn't seem very savoury, but it had some good tunes in it, so it all worked out.
Excellent. OK, very useful. News of an opportunity.
What a crook. Sorry, carry on.
News of an opportunity to send Lewis back to get a job in America in the Daily Mail now, Jonathan. This is how we could get rid of him.
Did they let convicted felons back in the country?
Well, read the article. We'll find out.
OK. The blue state where teachers will no longer have to pass basic reading, writing or arithmetic test. So teachers in New Jersey, which is basically America's Essex, are no longer required, don't at me, no longer required to pass basic reading, writing and mathematics tests to be eligible for a position at a public school. So the Blue State's controversial Act 1669, which is intended to fight the critical teacher shortage by lowering the standards of teachers joining the profession. Basically, they're getting rid of the most basic abilities needed, such as reading, writing. I mean, that is very concerning. You were saying that teachers are babysitters. Now they literally are babysitters. They're not qualified to teach.
Yeah.
Get them in.
I'd rather have a babysitter who could read and write, to be honest.
Yeah. These are very basic skills that you'd expect a teacher to have.
Yeah. I keep seeing reports, teachers in America are saying, I don't make enough money being a teacher, so I've got to do all this other work. And
OnlyFans.
And yeah, they do that. Well, I don't think they do because they get in trouble. But yeah, they do other stuff. They work as removals people and stuff like that. I don't know, are teachers not being paid enough? Are they? Because, there's some perks with being a teacher. Like, it's not a real job.
You only have to work 4 days a week.
Yeah.
This is terrible, isn't it? And this is off the back of, we've heard endlessly about Western ways of knowing are bigoted, and I'm paraphrasing here. But this, once again, is going to affect the least advantaged children.
Yeah.
There's a theme tonight.
There is a theme. It's almost like the producers put too many stories in. They're actually quite similar on reflection.
Well, maybe. It's fine. We'll make sure they get it. So, yeah, it's completely insane. Getting teachers in to teach who don't have a basic grasp of the skills is like getting somebody on a news show who doesn't know anything about current events.
Never.
Very, very troubling.
OK, on that note, still to come, is there anything Andrew Tate doesn't think he can do? How do you make £5 grand sharpish? And what aren't Americans doing anymore? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're on the hunt for some winter sun, I'm afraid it's often going to be cloudy, also with some rain. Largely dry across central areas, but it is going to be windy at times. Some cloud and rain moving into parts of Madeira and Lisbon, though largely dry across Tenerife and largely dry across central areas of the Mediterranean too. But as we move further east, more cloud for parts of Italy and also Greece, and this could be thick enough to produce some rain at times. More in the way of sunshine towards the end of the week, and temperatures widely in the mid to high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
We've got a special treat for you because we can show you this lovely video of a lady running on a beach. So you're not missing much if you're listening on the radio. It is literally a woman in white writing on the beach, writing 2025.
Yes, because that's the year we're in now.
Is it?
Yes,
Wow.
and it's because Meghan Markle returned to Instagram yesterday.
Former royal correspondent for The Sun, Charles Ray, joins us now. Are you inspired to remember the year, Charles?
Oh, Happy New Year to you too as well. I honestly haven't got a clue what she's doing now. I would have thought we should have had the theme tune from Jaws as she was running down to the water there and everything else. They're being quite hypocritical here because they came off social media because they were getting unparalleled abuse. I don't condone at all. It is not right whatsoever. And they've spent the last few years complaining about social media.
We've seen her before with her lifestyle blog, haven't we? Before she met Prince Harry, she was running a successful blog. Do you think she wants to go back to doing that sort of thing?
I think it's possible that that's what she wants to do. I mean, I don't understand how these things work, okay? But all I know is that certain influencers earn an awful lot of money from Instagram and everything else. Now, they're talking about figures. I mean, whether this is true or not, I've something like £790,000 she could earn per post. So it's quite incredible what she can possibly earn out of this. It's interesting, though, Stephen and Ellie, that she's actually switched off all the comments on this one.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Clearly, she doesn't want to have anybody on there saying anything nasty or anything good about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. You've been writing on GB News USA during the break. Andy says, Cressida, can we put Leo in as PM to cheer everyone up? I don't know if it'll cheer everyone up. You the following week and so on. So week 3 is you, Jonathan. How do you feel about that?
I'm going to abuse my power.
Good.
I'm going to...
Like a normal politician?
Yes, exactly. Do a litany of offensive stuff. Yeah.
Brilliant, OK.
I can't be stopped.
Influencer Andrew Tate has been entangled in sex scandals, faces accusations of links to organised crime and has recently converted to Islam. What's he planning to do with a CV like that, Leo?
So Andrew Tate is going to run for UK Prime Minister in Bruv Party, but the public are unfortunately convinced it's a joke. I mean, to be fair, I think the public think it's a joke that the Conservatives are running, to be honest. But this is the Bruv Party, Britain Restoring Underlying Values. The election is going to be decided by a boxing match with Jake Paul. And there's some precedent for this. A Cypriot YouTuber was able to use his influence to get elected to the European Parliament, but I guess fewer people vote in, those European elections. But unfortunately for anybody wanting to vote for the Bruv Party, they got some great ideas. I hope other parties cherry-pick some of these ideas. They want to reform the BBC, which I hope means make the BBC like Reform, give them the same values. They want to protect children. That's a novel idea. We could try that for a change.
No, it sounds a bit racist.
And they want a simplified tax system, which is great. Well, if it came in before January the 31st, when we all have to do our self-assessment.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, the party doesn't appear to be registered with the Electoral Commission.
Well, there are some flaws in this plan, aren't there?
I think so. Well, I guess he's a divisive figure.
Well, to start with, like as Leo said, he hasn't registered the party. He's got a website for it, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but neither does Reform. And apparently, someone said they made up all their votes.
That's not true.
Someone.
I'd slay me. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's satirical content.
Well, he's got a dark past, hasn't he? I don't think... I mean...
But you're telling me pimping?
He hasn't been convicted of anything. Didn't a court just find him, like they threw out the charges. I don't know if he's still got other charges.
But it depends what you mean by that. I mean somebody that's run an OnlyFans Situate cam girls business and is quite proud of it. To me, that doesn't say Prime Minister, but that's my narrow mind.
If we shouldn't have cam girls, then all these politicians who don't like cam girls should stop using cam girls and giving them money.
Brilliant. OK. Well, there you go.
An advert for AI cam girls, and I thought that's a very weird turn that's happened now. So it's like it's imaginary AI women fleecing men who know they're AI. It's a strange time.
Wow.
I mean,
anyway, I spent £150, but it's okay.
Do you think real women will be furious about that, or do you think it's good because it's actually it's going to end this sort of online prostitution?
Yeah, I think it's a good turn. I think it's just keep the vice to the pretend people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just some Indian dude in a workshop making the AI. Like, good for him. He's making bank.
Yeah. OK, Jonathan, you work as a hand model. The Telegraph's got details of another way you could exploit your body for money.
Well, I told you that in confidence, Cressida, and don't hate me because I have soft hands, OK?
Look at his hands. They're amazing.
Can we get close? Yeah, eyes are up here, guys. OK, so man receives £5,000 payout from razor company after trauma of cutting himself shaving. Nick Silverthorne, 48, purchased a supermarket own-brand razor from his local store. But when he used it for the first time, he said it cut both cheeks. So he discovered that one of the razor blades was detached. He shaved both sides of his face and he got a big gash on either side. Thank God he wasn't shaving his pubis. So I noticed after... I think that's the right word.
I'm just amazed that he cut one cheek and then he's like, I'm just going to make sure. I'm going to make sure this thing cuts your face open, and he shaved the other cheek.
That's how the Joker started. Like, you want to know how I got these? It's literally from that. But he's won $5 grand from an out-of-court settlement. Yeah. And, good for him. I think we should all go home and cut ourselves. As not advice, unless you want to make bank.
What I'm surprised about is that this has been in several newspapers today, and it's not like it's a quiet news day. You know, it's not Christmas Eve, and yet this is a big deal.
I think it's just nice to see somebody cutting themselves instead of, horrific violence being dealt out to other people. But yeah, this was Sainsbury's as well, so they deserve it because they came out with all that virtue signalling guff during BLM, so I'm glad they had to pay $5 grand. Well, it wasn't them, it was Wilkinson Sword.
Oh, they're the good guys.
They're the good. Apparently they make swords. Really? And they also make these razors. But mainly, the main thing, they probably make more money from the razors now because you don't see that many swords outside of Peckham. But yeah, they make swords.
So they sent the razor for tests, and a month later, this money was awarded. They've been approached for comment, but we don't have one from them at the moment.
It was a close shave.
Daily Mail now, and Americans aren't having any fun, Leo.
So Americans are lonelier than ever, as study reveals only 4.1% of them socially gather on an average weekend. So the country is apparently grappling with a loneliness epidemic that's left millions more citizens depressed. And the loneliness epidemic is probably worse in Britain because it's colder, so we're even less likely to go outside, and also our houses are worse, so we're more depressed when we're in them.
It's a booming age for AI cam girls, though. Everything has an upside.
Any sort of AI thing. But yeah, basically this is the ramifications of people not going out and meeting are going to play through in people not having sex, not having relationships, and not having kids. This is an existential crisis for the West. If we don't get people off their couches, off their virtual reality machines or whatever else they're doing, AI cam girls, and get them into parties and, talking to each other and then having kids, we're going to die out.
Well, I know this campaigner, Lily Phillips, who's trying to encourage men to have sex.
OK, Daily Mail next. Jonathan, I don't remember this Meatloaf song.
Yes, here's a really fun story about traffic. OK, so Bat Out of Hell...
You've got 40 seconds.
40 seconds. OK, I killed a man once, I don't know where the body is. So Bat Out of Hell, parents on the school run are banned from street after locals complain of car crash waiting to happen. So school run vehicles have been banned from the street after residents complained congestion. It's a car crash waiting to happen. That's news. That's on national television. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. Good night.
Anything on this, please, Leo?
No, not really.
Brilliant. OK. Well, we're going to fill the next 15 seconds. We can talk about the final story, if you like.
Yeah, so the WWE is moving to Saudi Arabia, and American fans are furious because it's going to Saudi Arabia, which I think used to be, one of the sort of... that part of the world was seen as the enemy of America up until recently.
There you go.
But the Iron Sheik is thrilled.
You heard it here first. The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Wednesday's front pages. The Mail has A&E in crisis as flu spikes. The Guardian, dismay as fact-checking ditched on Facebook in in free speech drive. The Eye has social media giants defy UK crackdown on online safety, and the Metro has sick TikTok click shock for Labour. The Daily Star has how to survive a Yeti attack. That's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Leo and Jonathan. Somebody will be back here tomorrow night. It says with Leo, I think that's wrong. Somebody will be here tomorrow. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then please stay tuned for breakfast.
That was good. We did well.
Breakfast. I'll get through it
tomorrow.
Oh, well, lovely.
Oh, good luck with the hair transplant.
Thank you.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A very good evening to you. Now the sun has set, the temperatures are tumbling. Hard frost tonight. That'll be around for much of tomorrow morning. An ice risk in some areas and some places seeing further snow. We need to watch this weather front just pushing up from the south. The weather system that's brought all the snow recently has cleared away, but we've still got the winds coming down from the north. Plenty of snow showers still to come across Northern Ireland and northern and the west coast of Scotland. The snow showers we've seen through the day across northwest England, North Wales should fade away. For many, it's a dry night, clear night. And there's that hard frost, minus double digits in some parts of the countryside. So yes, a very cold start to Wednesday. Still some snow showers over northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Still potentially very icy here first thing in the morning. Met Office yellow warning remains in place. Further covering of snow, further few centimetres through the night and into the morning. Same goes for Northern Ireland as well. Could also be a bit foggy here first thing, and we could have some fog patches too over northwest England, parts of the North Midlands. But most of England and Wales starting dry and very frosty. But down to the southwest, signs of a change. That weather front we saw earlier just nudging northwards. Some uncertainty about how much progress it makes, and that will be crucial for how much snow we see. At the moment, it looks like we'll see quite a bit of rain on the south coast, but there is the potential for some heavy snow for a time during Wednesday across southern counties of England. So there's a warning in place for that. As I say, just the potential at this stage, something we're keeping a close eye on. Further north for many places, dry and a bright day tomorrow, but it will be a cold one. The winds, though, generally lighter, particularly over northern Scotland, where they've been perishing today. Still a few wintry showers coming in here. That mixture of sleet and snow and rain across the south scoots away through the evening time. Again, a hard frost for Thursday morning, so again, potentially icy in places. But for many places, a fine, bright, cold winter's day.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£50,000 in tax-free cash is like having over £4,000 each month to play with for a whole year. And it could be yours in the biggest Great British giveaway so far. That could be a holiday each month, your mortgage covered, or just the ability to send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our